ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the seventh race of the second season of the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series, as we're here live from the Charlotte Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina. Tonight, drivers will take to this 1.5-mile D-shaped racetrack for 200 laps, so these guys better be ready to pace themselves. We'll be pacing ourselves up here in the booth as well. Seth Cole alongside of Anthony McCrory, and Anthony, here tonight, these drivers have to pretty much kind of do this race from back to front in terms of strategy, a long one. So it'll be interesting to see what the strategy is for these guys, especially early out of the gate.
Yeah, it's going to be a long one for these guys to have to work through. A 200 lap race at Charlotte is definitely no small feat, no matter what league you run in. And the changing track conditions over the course of the race is definitely going to throw some of these drivers into a bit of a loop. But then again, a lot of these teams have had past experience at Charlotte. They'll know what they need to bring in order to get their car to be in the right spot at the right time where they need it the most. It's going to be a fun one to watch the strategy play out to see how the run's progressing. I love Charlotte, and I love seeing longer races at Charlotte, so this is going to be very exciting.
We ended up, as you mentioned, having these drivers take to Charlotte last season. The defending winner of the race is in the field here tonight, DJ Daniel, who, with qualifying underway, just clocked in second fastest, currently sharing the front row with Tom Born. We'll wait to see if anything changes in that regard. But also here tonight, special race at Charlotte as it's the patriotic race. You'll see a lot of the drivers out here tonight donning the red, white, and blue. A lot of them carrying service members on the name banners just above their windshields, and we'll be documenting a lot of the stories of those service members. I should mention that they are honoring here tonight during the course of this 200 lap race. But let's get ready now for pre-race ceremonies, and let's kick things off with tonight's invocation, courtesy of Pastor Zach Woods.
Let's pray. Almighty God, I thank you for technology like iRacing that exists so that we can connect with people from all walks of life. And I thank you for tonight as we get to honor the fallen servicemen and women that we know and men and women that we don't know as they gave their lives so that we might be free. Our hearts go out to those who are currently in Haiti and Afghanistan right now. And we pray, Lord, that you might comfort them. And Lord, we pray that for tonight, you grant us a good race and you grant us patience and wisdom as we do this. Let it be in the power of Jesus' name. Amen.
And now please join us in honoring America with tonight's singing of the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars
Tom Born going to capture the pole position for tonight's event. He's going to be starting, as mentioned, alongside of DJ Daniel in the 96. Now, there are a number of drivers in the field here tonight, Anthony, that did take the green flag in last year's Charlotte race as well. Do we give them a bit of an advantage in terms of maybe knowing a little bit of what the conditions are going to be here tonight, or just based on the high level of competition we've seen here ever since they took the green flag at Daytona? Does that kind of all go out the window? Is it a clean slate?
They certainly do have some drivers that will throw in a bit of a curveball throughout the course of this race, but those drivers that have had past experience in this series during this race, they're definitely going to have some advantage going to it, as they know what happened last season, that they can kind of gauge out what's going to happen tonight, rather. Some of these drivers also race in other leagues that do have Charlotte on their schedule pretty frequently, so they might have experience coming in from those series that they can put into this series. It's going to be a mixed bag. Some people, this might be their first Charlotte start, so it's always going to be fun to see like people at the back trying to work their way up that might have started at the back. I know that we have Zachary Woods at the back of the field. He's normally a midfield runner. We'll see him try to make his way through the field. David Modespa, one of those other drivers that kind of make their way through the field. Chris Hupka, another driver that makes his way through the field. So it's going to be fun to watch them go through the field. It's also going to be fun to see the guys that started up front to try and take this race by the horn, so to say.
26 drivers going to take the green. We showed you 24 drivers on the grid that took time. Gene Cato and Joshua Billiter are going to be making up the 13th and final row. But it is the Toyota out of Sky Motorsports of Tom Bourne that's going to lead us down here, and we are officially underway here tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And the caution is immediately out.
It is indeed. I am not entirely sure why nobody's
94.
lost positions.
Patrick Jenks, something happened to him right on the front straightaway. Can't tell if that's just before or just after the start-finish line, but it's come to a halt facing up into the outside wall.
Looks like they might have bottled up at the start of the field or the start of the race. Maybe the inside line. I think it was just a stack up on the inside line. It looked like the Jenks tried to get on the throttle too quickly and had to check up. And then the 60 of Woods comes in and just clips the back end of the 94, and that's what sends him around. So, and then he gets collected another, but more contact from the 8 of Bilter, and I think he just got stuck in the wall.
Take a look here. Yeah, he definitely got stuck in the wall. There's no doubt about that. Here's the stack up you were alluding to. A number of drivers were given an awful lot of space there, and usually that's a recipe that with that much space, some of them are going to go early, some of them aren't going to go, and you end up getting a stack up like that. Didn't even get to the start-finish line to begin this race, did Patrick Jenks, and he had to teleport that car to pit road. And, boy, I mean, not even taking the first lap, that might even be a fast repair there that he has to use in the early stages of this race.
It's certainly going to hurt in the sense that he's already gone a lap down, and he might go even more laps down because he had to teleport to pit road. There's no telling how long the tow will be. It's not race over. It's still a long way to go. Obviously, really haven't gotten started yet, so could possibly get that car back out on the track and try to make up some ground there. So, have to see how he does once he gets back out there. But it was kind of reminded me of a traffic jam. It looked like that the field in front went, but somebody had stamped on the brakes from somewhere in the mid pack, and then it just accordioned all the way back. Because that was right at the end of the field. It was back there with Belinter and Woods and Cato and Owens and some of these drivers that started outside the top 20.
We saw the 8 of Joshua Billiter get a little piece of that. He didn't come to pit road, though. Did not come to pit road at all, at least up to this point on this caution period. So, don't know what the extent of the damage might be on his machine. But he is going to stay out here, and looks like he'll be restarting in 24th. Got a couple of cars there that are actually sitting on the back straightaway. I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah,
they all just went a lap down there. That was David Modespa, Noah Owens, Gene Cato, Mike Sibanovsky. Now they're going back around.
I am not sure what's going on here, to be honest. I know that a couple of these drivers were involved, but it certainly wouldn't be enough to send them a lap down. There's another driver on the inside going to the rear, and there's a few drivers up in front of these guys.
I'm almost wondering, with the timing of the yellow flag and the fact that about half the field never really even got to take the green, they took the caution instead. I'm wondering if maybe there's like some timing and scoring error that's going on right now, and they're having to use these pace laps to figure that out to make sure everybody's going to be on the lead lap when we go back green.
They haven't been timed a lap down, so I think that might be correct in that they haven't actually started the race yet. And now we've got, looks like that Bourne and Daniel are letting everybody go. They're still stuck behind the pace car, a few of these drivers, so interesting. I don't think I've ever seen this happen, to be quite honest.
This is perplexing. Yeah, I don't think I ever have either. Well, while we take the opportunity here for them to get this all settled out, mention that here tonight we're going to highlight a number of the servicemen and women that are on the driver banners of drivers' machines here tonight. Let's start with the defending winner of this race, DJ Daniel. He's carrying tonight his great-grandfather, Private First Class William Irvin Robinson. His grandfather had a very close bond with his dad. Unfortunately, he passed away due to injuries on the front line before DJ was able to meet him. Received the Purple Heart upon his passing, since his death was caused by enemy forces on the front lines of World War II. He was told a lot of family stories that he was a brave and humble man and driving tanks, things of that sort, and eventually all those stories are passed down to DJ, and he's held on to them tightly there, and no doubt's going to pass those stories down to future generations as well. DJ Daniel in that 23, his second start of the season for Rebel Racing. Of course, last week his debut for the team didn't necessarily go the way he was hoping, as he was involved in a wreck from the race lead, was able to battle back for a top 10 finish, I believe it was later on that day, but bit of a rough start. Looking to do a lot better here today and trying to go back-to-back at the Charlotte Motor Speedway as well.
So as everyone gets set up, what was happening is that they were actually getting in front of the leaders so that they could take a wave around. They weren't ever scored a lap down. Nobody except for Patrick Jenks is being scored laps down, and he is at a current tally of 2 laps down. Tom Bourne, DJ Daniel will be the front row. Pretty much everyone that took the green flag did not advance or lose a position, with the exception of a couple drivers, notably the second place, make that the third and fourth place drivers of Whitehead and McQuaid, I believe, have swapped positions. Whitehead now in third place, McQuaid fourth. Woodard, Roberts, Haverdine, Gardner, Garcia, and Vicker will be rounding out the top 10, as the 38 is on the bottom of the racetrack, but we get ready to set back to green.
Yes, Clifford Corvo, saw him going around the leaders, but he was on the lead lap, now dropping down to the apron, so maybe still a little bit of more confusion going on there of who's supposed to be where. But the iRacing pace car does hit pit road, so we're going to go back underway and try to see if we can complete our first official lap under the green flag as Tom Bourne into the restart zone, and we're not going apparently. They're going to wave that green flag off again. And we'll try and remedy the situation for at least another lap here.
I think it might have been something to do with Clifford Corvo. That'd be the only thing that I could think of. He's slotted back up in line. He's running in 13th at the moment. As the safety car comes back onto the turn 1 and 2 complex.
You'll notice that the lights are out on the pace car, coming to pick the field back up, so it should be diving back onto pit road again this next time by. We'll take this extra mile and a half to settle out the scoring error one more time. Patrick Jenks, by the way, in the 94, did take on the faster pair, did return back to the racetrack, but he is currently scored 2 laps down. So he will obviously be relying on a couple of early cautions to get back on the lead lap, but as mentioned, wasn't even up to the start-finish line, about maybe 100 feet away from the start-finish line when he had his issue. Never even got to complete a lap, and finds himself in a very early hole here with nearly, 195 last time by laps to go. So a lot of opportunity still to be able to mount a comeback, but at the same time, a lot of opportunity to make that costly second error and end your day early.
And I believe that they only have a few faster pairs or even one faster pair at their disposal. Safety car peels down pit road yet again. We're going to set these guys off for our first restart of the night on lap 7. We are green at Charlotte. Bourne, Whitehead get us underway, and they check out on the inside line as everyone behind them tries to find their way in line. DJ Daniel on the outside line getting down to the inside, sliding into third place, and everyone got away cleanly this time.
Not an easy thing to do on the D-shaped front straightaway to push another driver in front of you, but that's exactly what Trey Whitehead was able to do for race leader Tom Bourne as they'll get out to P1 and 2. Now it's going to be Christopher Woodard. He'll dive to the inside on DJ Daniel, slot up in front of him, so move the 24 to P3.
And on the outside line, you've got DJ Daniel going backwards. He's going to be passed by Jason Garcia on the inside line, or he's trying to get to the inside line. It almost seems like the outside only works around 1 and 2 on the entry. Not so well as the 8 spins around, and now on the back straightaway, we've got multiple cars going around. Someone flipping over the barrier. That'd be the 77. Big crash.
Wade back on his wheels, fortunately. Jason Gracias was that first car that stepped out of line, second caution of the day. Alexander Kerfan, the whole front end of his car is gone. Last week's winner from Talladega.
A massive amount of cars on the back straightaway, and that, it looked like it might have been a bump that was delivered to Billiter. May not be, make that not Billiter. I don't know who the bump was given to.
Sixth car possibly of Gracias. He's the one that I saw out of shape.
That would be him, I believe.
And that would have been McQuaid that actually gave him the bump.
So McQuaid sends Gracias around, and then McQuaid gets T-boned on the left, or the driver's side door, and gets sent over the barricade, and then gets flung back out onto the racing surface, and then T-boned yet again by another driver.
I think we can safely say we've seen some things here in just the first 10 laps at Charlotte that we haven't seen before. 94 of Patrick Jenks not even getting to the green flag to start this race, caught in the wall, and that wild ride there. Patrick McQuaid in the 77. My goodness, another couple of drivers that got some bits and pieces. Saw Gene Cato got a piece, and we already documented 99 of Alexander Kerfan, who we're going to go on board with here and see what exactly last week's winner saw.
I almost want to see that. Looks like the Jason Gracias got. It looks like he got loose before he even got hit by the 77. I don't think that there was any contact made, and then it just couldn't collect it, or he overcorrected it, and then that's what happened there. But everywhere scattering on the racetrack. It could have taken out a lot more cars as well, but it only took out a couple of drivers. You didn't want any to be taken out, but thankfully it got away with what could have been a much more catastrophic wreck.
Well, that's going to add more drivers to the faster pair list. Kerfan, who we were just on board with, came down, took on his faster pair, and no doubt Patrick McQuaid is going to be having to do the same. He is still serving the tow to pit road, and we'll see how long it's going to take for that before he eventually can get back out there. Patrick Jenks with this caution gets one of his laps back, so now he is -1. McQuaid currently sits at 2 laps down and still sits in his pit stall as pits are open, and everybody running down there on the inside. I wondered if for a brief moment some of them might have ducked onto pit lane, but I think with what we've seen so far here in the first 10 laps, that chaotic couple of restarts, you might want to keep that track position up front. Might be a little bit safer.
At the front of the field, definitely. And another thing that might be influencing their decisions to not come down pit lane at the moment is they really haven't run that many laps under green flag conditions. They've been pacing around for the better part of the last 9 out of 11 laps. So they're not going to have that sense of urgency to get fresh tires or fuel. There's not much that they've burned out. So track position and the fact that your stuff is pretty much fresh at the moment, probably a big reason why we aren't seeing anybody on pit road yet. I was looking back at the incident, and stuff like that seems to happen a lot more coming out of turn 2 than we've seen anywhere else on the racetrack. I know it's early in the race, but if I recall correctly, back to last season, we had a number of drivers have issues with corner exit in turn 2 and 4, but 2 more specifically, the way that turn 2 kind of arches out and just kind of throws the car out to the outside of the racetrack as it levels off. You think that these drivers are struggling with those conditions again out here? I know it's not exactly a cool night tonight, but I don't think the track conditions would be that slick tonight.
No, I don't think so either. It could be, though, the fact that you alluded to. We've only run at the most maybe 1.5 laps under green flag conditions. These tires, they're pretty cool. And when they're cool, they're slick. So it really doesn't matter if you're on a really gripped up track or if you're at a track that's had the sun beating on it all day. You got those cooler tires, you're at least for the first couple of laps going to be dealing with that loose sensation.
And we'll have to see if they can remedy that situation by running some green flag laps to get some heat in the tires, and this whole dynamic of the race might change. We're getting them set up to go back to green. It'll be Tom Bourne and Trey Whitehead still out in the first row, and then we'll have Christopher Woodard that's made his way up in third place. DJ Daniel will slot into fourth, and then it'll be Hervanen and Lawrence will be making up row 3. On the restart, it definitely seemed to favor the inside line the last time out. It might have been due to the fact that the outside line was kind of caught sleeping, but what do you think? Inside or outside line, preferred line for restarts? Given the fact that we've only had one so far, it definitely seems to favor the inside.
And no doubt about it. I think that inside line is going to be the way to go all night long. I think even if you're a driver that might be off the sequence in terms of tire strategy, if we get to that point later on in this race, I think you still want that inside line because normally you're able to pretty much full throttle it on at least the first restart lap through 1 and 2, and you would obviously want the shorter way around the racetrack in that respect as well. So I think that inside line, that's going to be the preferred line on restarts all evening long as Tom Bourne waiting for that iRacing pace car to turn him loose once again. 12 laps, and we've already seen 2 cautions, 1 flip on the back straightaway, a car stuck in the wall in the front straightaway. What more can we see here with still over 180 laps to go? Bourne gets us back underway, and Christopher Woodard's going to take big advantage of that inside line. He's going to immediately move to the second position before they even got to turn 1.
And on the inside line, everyone's still singly filing out all the way back into fourth place. We got a battle for fifth place side by side between Lawrence and DJ Daniel. Daniel again trapped on the outside line. It definitely seems like in the opening laps, the outside line is the preferred line, or the inside line rather is the preferred line. But it does seem like over time the outside line kicks in, as now the 31 down to the inside of Brock Whitehead going alongside to take the 6th place position away. As up at the front of the field, it's still Bourne and Whitehead battling, or not battling, but single file, but behind them, battle for third. Oh, goodness, a crossover by Woodard going down the back straightaway. We still have a battle, but now here comes the 9 of Lawrence.
Pretty sure that Herberton got the wall there off of 2. That checked up Woodard. That brings Lawrence around his teammate in the 24 up to the 4th position. Now Brock Whitehead looks to take advantage of the lost momentum by the 24 machine. Right now you've got about 10, 11 cars up in this lead group, then a bit of a gap back there before you get to, I believe that is Ryan Sizemore in the 3. He and David Modespaw kind of on an island of their own, but the way they're racing up here from about 5th place on back, that might not be such a bad thing.
Absolutely not. As we keep running around the track at the moment, I was looking back there. There's a big scary moment between Woodard and Whitehead. It looked like that Woodard might have stepped out a little bit, but gathered the car up. As now Christopher Lawrence going down to the inside, or trying to get down to the inside of Hervani. Now this is kind of what we expected out of this kind of a race, is everyone kind of slots in line and then gets into a groove as they try to figure out what their cars are set up for. We're quickly losing daylight. As we started the race, it was twilight conditions. Now it's starting to get a lot darker. The track conditions starting to cool off. Now you're going to start to see which of these drivers have gotten their car in a setup to where they'll run primarily at night, because I think that most of these drivers were anticipating this race going to be run mostly at night anyway. So some of these guys are struggling right now. They might not be struggling later on as the race progresses.
Good point there. Probably the setup that was put together here tonight for these guys was more than likely made for those later on nighttime conditions. Dylan Herberton has his hands full. He was loose out of 2 a couple of laps ago. That time by, he almost went up and brushed the wall off of turn 2. You know what they say about loose being fast and on the edge of out of control? That might be the case, because he was actually the fastest car in practice. As we've got a lead change, maybe. Trey Whitehead trying the inside on Tom Bourne, who pinches him down. Those two awfully close off the second corner, and this battle's not over.
Here we almost side by side going down the back straightaway. There's side by side going through 3. There's almost some contact. There is some contact. if they didn't make contact, I don't know how. Outside line prevails. Bourne takes the lead, but this battle isn't over yet as Whitehead's still side by side going down the front straightaway.
Keep an eye behind them. You got them stacked up there with Woodard, Herberton, Lawrence. You've got Brock Whitehead in this mix as well. DJ Daniel and Jeffrey Vickery. That's from the 4th position back to around 8th. Throw a blanket over them.
A lot of drivers close behind them, side by side battling. Woodard, Brock Whitehead. DJ Daniel, close rate is extremely fast. Wow. Getting that kind of a run coming off of 4 usually ends in disaster, but he's able to keep the speed and not get into the back of Woodard as they still side-by-side battle between Brock Whitehead and DJ Daniel. Daniel's got some speed. He's just caught up in traffic right now, not been able to go anywhere as they still battle side-by-side. Oh, there might have been some contact going into 3 between them. But still, so far, nobody has spun around. Nobody has gotten too much contact. I say that, and Daniel almost runs into Whitehead.
Don't forget, DJ Daniel won this race a year ago. Oh my goodness, we just had a block into the grass. That was Chris Woodard, who had his left sides off the racing surface, trying to get the inside of Dylan Herberton on the front straightaway. You gotta wonder if that's gonna come back to haunt the 27. Very early to be that aggressive. But back to what I was gonna say about DJ Daniel, won this race 1 season ago, so you gotta think he's got a strategy coming into this one. He's obviously done this before. The way they're racing up here right now, I'm wondering if all that strategy that he had pre-race, if that's all gone out the window, as the battle's going to now be for 2nd place. Trey Whitehead has lost touch with Tom Bourne. He's fallen back into the clutches of Christopher Lawrence.
Lawrence with a good run coming up through turn 2. He's been putting on a charge ever since the drop of the green flag. This has not slowed down. I want to imagine that Lawrence has kind of been halfway in attack mode, halfway in tire conservation mode, but at the same time, we've seen that Whitehead might be slowing down on purpose to try and see if Tom Bourne will use up his stuff quicker. And behind him, we've also got Dylan Hervernon coming up, trying to catch these drivers as well. It might be a 3-way battle for 2nd place if the 27 can indeed catch up. But that will also in tow bring 5th place Woodard and 6th place DJ Daniel and company, as the top 10, or make that the top 8, really is starting to really close the gap between Tom Bourne and Jeffrey Vickery, as Vickery is at the back end. Well, he's about to not be at the back end as he's in the battle with Brock Whitehead, but this top 8 kind of getting sandwiched together as they're kind of stepping away from Chris Hubka, who is basically by himself in 9th place.
There in the 5 machine there, you saw him just in the back half of your screen. Side by side here for the 5th position between Woodard and Daniel. A couple of teammates out of Rebel Racing. Close there to the left rear quarter panel was DJ Daniels. They'll take that into 3 and 4. Behind them, Vickery and Brock Whitehead continue to battle for 7th place. Advantage right now to the 31. I think he will hold that spot at least at the start-finish line. In exchange for 2nd place going on to turn 1, Christopher Lawrence carrying his father, Vietnam veteran Thomas F. Lawrence, on his number 9 car here tonight. Lawrence finished 4th here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway last season, so another driver that's got good numbers at this D-shaped 1.5 miles.
And he's using his car to his advantage right now. He's actually closing the gap between himself and Bourne at the moment. It's not going to be an extreme close rate, but we will see a battle for the lead if this continues to trend the way it is in a few laps' time. There was almost some contact back between the 83 and the 9 or the 31 back here. I think there was, but it never came, or nothing came of it as they continue to battle side by side. This battle is bringing in.
They got a caution on the racetrack. I believe it's the 77 of Patrick McQuaid once again. This appears to be over, I believe, in the middle of 1 and 2.
Looks like it's McQuaid. It looks like it's also perhaps Christian Roos involved and Gene Cato.
Back, take a look at what happened. Patrick McQuaid has already used his fast repair. Let's bear that in mind. Oh, this was a pretty big wreck. It started ahead of the 77. Let's see if we can figure out who it began with. Oh, that the 14 of Christian Roos, I think, that got hooked into the outside wall.
It was. It got hooked by, I believe that was maybe Ron Gardner that made the, he was ahead of these guys. Can't quite tell who hooked the 14 of Roos, but got sent around. And then it just got collected by The aforementioned Cato and McQuaid.
I believe that might be Noah Owens, perhaps, in the 88 that might have gotten into that right rear quarter panel of Christian Ruse.
You would be correct.
Gene Cato get a piece of that as well. This caution is going to help Mike Sibanovsky, who during that last run actually made an unscheduled trip to pit road and lost a lap as a result. He should be the free pass car under this yellow flag, and we do also have our first retiree out of the race. That is going to be Patrick Jenks in the 94, as several drivers come into pit lane. Got a couple of drivers electing to stay out, however.
We do. We have the 27 of Hervadin trying to stay out. We also have the it's the 8 on the racetrack, but on our telemetry it's a 6. But the 8 of Jason Gracia staying out on racetrack. We also have Ryan Sizemore, who I believe might be the first driver off of pit road as he's come past the blue cone onto the back straightaway. So he'll come out as our third place driver. I don't know if he took time on pit road or if he bypassed the pit road.
There's a very good reason why he came out first. Missed his pit stall, did the driver of the 3, so we'll probably see him duck back onto pit lane here this next time around.
Sizemore coming back down pit road for a re-entry into his stall, and that then begins the drivers that have come to pit road, being Tom Bourne is now still the lead of the race, or the effective lead of the drivers who came down pit road. Trey Whitehead, Christopher Lawrence, DJ Daniel, who moves up a spot after coming off of pit road, and Christopher Woodard, I say, is come back onto the racetrack. Now the question is, for these two that stayed out, would you imagine that they're trying some strategy where they might be betting on another quick yellow, and that way that they can maybe stay up in this higher position and then come down onto the pit lane later and keep somewhat of the track position? Although the hole in that strategy is that these drivers that have just come down pit road, they're not expected to be back onto pit road for quite some time. So if they get another quick caution, it might be all for naught, but they might be able to just ride this out if we do go into some quick yellows one after the other.
Well, answer your question there on Herberton and Grossi. It's two drivers, two entirely different strategies here with staying out. For Herberton, we've seen that his car is fast. He's been up here inside of the top 5 ever since the green flag was dropped here this evening. I mentioned he was the fastest in practice as well. So what he's doing right now, trying to be off sequence with everybody else, maybe save that extra set of tires for the very end of this race. I believe they do have a limited number of tires for this event. I'm not exactly certain what the number is. So he's trying to play the strategy for later on in this race. For Jason Gracias, on the other hand, his hand was forced. He had to stay out because, remember, he was involved in the second caution of the day, came down pit road, had to use the faster pair, and more than likely took on a set of tires right there. So he was a set of tires in the hole at that point in time. He is trying to even himself out with the rest of the competition now, try and get back in the same pit sequence as they are with staying out here and not taking on yet another set of tires and being another minus set to everybody else behind him.
It is a long race. Tire conservation is going to be the biggest talk as we get into the last 20 or so laps and you don't have a set that you can throw on in case of a quick caution that comes out and have somewhat of an advantage with the other drivers, and it might come back and hurt you in the end. We've seen that hand over fist at a lot of these long races where some drivers might miscalculate the amount of tires that they have, or they might miss a stop, or maybe try to pit early and then end up using their stuff too early before the drop of the checkered flag. And there's a lot of strategies that go into the longer races, especially at Charlotte or any of the mile and a halves. We've seen a fair bit of fuel strategy at these races as well. So let's see if any of that happens in this one tonight. Hervadin and Gracias will be out in the front. Then we have Bourne, Whitehead, Lawrence, Daniel, Woodard, Whitehead, Vickery, and Kerfen is now running up inside the top 10 in the 99. So new face running in the top 10. That was a lightning fast stop that he had the last time by.
Definitely was. Bear in mind, however, might not have had to take on nearly as much fuel as everybody, as he also is a faster pair in the hole after being involved in the wreck with Patrick McQuaid's flipping car on the back straightaway. Mike Sibanovsky indeed did get the free pass under this caution, so we're going to have 24 drivers on the lead lap of 25 running when we get ready to take this green flag for our third restart of the evening. Lap 30 about to be completed. Lap 31 about to go onto the board. The older tires of Dylan Herberton, 30-lap old tires, getting ready to bring us to green. Let's see if he's going to be able to keep it up here with everybody, or if he's going to be a bit of a moving chicane for the fresh Goodyears behind.
It certainly didn't seem like he had old tires on the restart. He was able to get a great restart, put a couple car lengths behind the competitors on the inside line, although now you're starting to see the differences. Bourne and Whitehead with no problem catching right back up to the 27 and then bypassing down the inside line to the back straightaway. Bourne back to the point. He's bringing Whitehead along with him.
Now for the 27 of Herberton, now it's just going to be manage the damage. Try and find yourself a place to slot in line and ride it out until maybe the next caution, then take advantage with the fresher tires when maybe everybody else decides to stay out. Top two, break away. Battle's going to be for thirds. We got a car slow on the apron coming off of pit road. I believe that might have possibly been the Patrick McQuaid machine, who had just returned back to the racetrack. We've also got a car on pit road, David Modespa in the one. He is just now, I believe, making his way to pit road. He's in pit road, but they are not servicing the race car, so not sure what's up with that. Let's jump back up to the front, though, because top four, all nose to tail. Tom Bourne's Toyota leading the Chevrolets of Whitehead. That's Trey Whitehead, DJ Daniel, and Christopher Lawrence. Oh, car way up the track. Brock Whitehead and I believe the 24 of Woodard might have gotten together, and the 24 was headed straight for the outside wall.
Woodard has gotten together back up and is now being bypassed by the inside of Vickery. He's going to have a TJ Roberts right now, right behind him, trying to crack into the top. Actually has cracked into the top 10 with the passings of the cars with the slower tires. Is now trying to gather it back up is Woodard after getting some considerable heavy damage on the right side of the car. Not a whole lot of cosmetic, but gotta admit, with a slap like that, it might have some suspension damage that will have to carry on throughout the rest of the night. Although at the minute he's running pretty well in the 24 car. As up the front, Bourne, Whitehead, two running first and second, are being caught up by Daniel and Lawrence. Bit of a kind of a couple of duos, and then you have a gap. You have a gap between them, and then you have Brock Whitehead, which is quickly making this second group a trio. And pretty soon we're going to have the top five all battling for the lead of the races. Everyone in the top five seems to have extremely fast cars and extremely competitive cars to one another.
Top five all separated by about 7.5 tenths of a second from Bourne back to Brock Whitehead. Then you got about a second back to Alexander Kerfan. He might be under fire here momentarily from Jeffrey Vickery or Christopher Woodard, who's actually going to make a move there on the 96. That's going to be for the 7th position. Interesting to be able to see here as well that 24 of Woodard struggling here tonight, because this is the second 1.5-mile D-shaped track that they have run here on the schedule so far. The first one was, of course, the Atlanta Motor Speedway, where Christopher Woodard kind of ran the Larson line, ran the highest on the track of anybody that race, and it paid big dividends for him. He was able to pick up his first career BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series win there. But here tonight, a little bit more struggles in the early going at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And real quickly mentioned about the fact that we did have a driver back in the garage area, the 94 of Patrick Jenks. We would be remiss if we did not mention the service member that was on the driver banner of his Chevrolet. His grandfather, Henry H. Jenks, in World War II from the beginning of 1944 to 1945. He flew in a C-35 cargo plane and helped deliver food, ammo, and other supplies to the Allied troops stationed in Germany and the surrounding areas. We appreciate Patrick Jenks honoring his grandfather here tonight. Unfortunately, an early end to his race, not even really a quarter of the way through.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate outing for Patrick Jenks. Never really got his race started either, as he found himself in the outside wall at the very beginning of the event and just never got that car back going the right direction. As we run right now, TJ Roberts at the end of this train of cars that runs all the way from Tom Bourne up to him in the 9th place. And then we have a large gap back to 10th place, which would be Chris Hubka, Gene Cato, Ryan Sizemore, Kyle Gardner, and that would be it, as there is a lap machine, I believe. Who would be the lap machine with them? It seems like there's there's that might actually be Zachary Woods that's running with them. No, can't tell. Can't tell who that is.
Believe. Yes, David Modespa, perhaps in the one car that you're looking at there. There's two cars that are off the lead lap right now. David Modespa in the 1, and Patrick McQuaid in the 77. But they're actually back here towards the rear of the field, so I'm not sure who that car is that you're looking at. Whoever it is, they're on the lead lap.
All right, so I am. You are correct. I was miscounting the cars. So yeah, these 4 running nose to tail. This is 10th through 13th, and you would think that they would be on the similar pace with everybody in the top 9, but the top 9 have been running consistently around the same lap times as one another. And then back here, Hubka, Cato, Sizemore, and Gardner, they're trying to catch back up to the top 9 as they are a long ways back, almost an entire straightaway back.
Now, those drivers that elected to stay out, as we got a battle for second, and it's tight off of 4 between DJ Daniel and Trey Whitehead. Dylan Herberton and Jason Gracias, who elected to stay out under the last caution. They've now faded outside of the top 10. Gracias slotted in 14th. Herberton right now in the 16th position. So they found places in line. Now they're just in ride mode, waiting this thing out, as DJ Daniel easily makes that pass on Whitehead. So move the defending winner of this race up to second place. Now let's see what he's able to do with the race leader, Tom Bourne.
I'll be able to run him down. He's been running some pretty fast laps the last few. And now that he's gotten by all the traffic, might be starting to put down some fast laps. And now for Trey Whitehead, this might be good for him, as he's being able to slot behind another driver, be able to kind of ease off the throttle and kind of ride into these turns, maybe save some fuel for later in the run. If we do go the rest of the race under green, then now is the time to start thinking about fuel strategy, as the fuel window, although I'm not quite sure what the fuel window is, I know for a fact they'll have to make at least 2 more stops, maybe even a 3rd stop. They might be trying to save themselves from making a 4th stop, although a little bobble from Trey Whitehead coming out of turn 4 is now going to get swallowed up by Christopher Lawrence trying to get to the inside.
It looked like that 33 got really tight there off of turn 4. Had to bail out of the throttle a bit to avoid scraping the outside wall. And to your point, that has brought Christopher Lawrence now to his bumper. But a nice exit off of turn 2 by Trey Whitehead's going to keep Lawrence at bay for the time being. Both of the Whiteheads having good outings here tonight right now, both up inside the top 5, with Trey in 3rd and Brock just behind there in the 5th position. Both of them honoring their relatives here tonight. Brock Whitehead's 31 carries Charles Ray Davidson of the Air Force, and Trey Whitehead carrying Charles Franklin Hunter of the U.S. Army.
Both fantastic liveries on these cars as well. It's fun to see these drivers put on these liveries in support of troops, because you end up getting to have some recognition for the servicemen and women that have served and have built up their own stories over the last however many years that they have served, and however old they are. You get to have these stories from them. They get passed down generation to generation, and then these drivers and these people that are directly related or choose to represent them, they get to tell their stories, so we get to know, and then we get to tell their stories to other people. So it's fun to hear about other people's how their lives were and what they did to come in and serve their branches in their respective branches, and just what they were able to accomplish, and then get to pass that on. I think that's really cool that we get to do that here tonight with all these drivers representing different servicemen and women.
I saw there Jeffrey Vickery coming to pit lane. I'm not certain what is going on there in that regard. We'll follow and see if this is a regularly scheduled stop. It looks like it is, just a regular 4-tire pit stop for the 96, and he was one of the drivers that came to pit road under the last caution. So this seems awfully early for somebody to be coming to pit road, especially since nobody else up here inside of the top 10, top 15 has even made any type of indication that they're coming to pit lane.
He might be rolling the dice in this race going green all the way to the end. If he pits now, that he might be okay to make it to the end of the race. That being said, that it's a bold strategy trying to play it out, but if we have the rest of the leaders come down pit road under green flag and then have a yellow come out directly after that, he might be able to kind of leapfrog throughout the rest of the field. He might gain some track position on it, although it's a bit too early, I feel. We were just on pit road, like you mentioned, not 10 to 15 laps ago, so interesting call. I'll have to see how it plays out. It might play out well for him.
Riding on board here with Alexander Kerfan, our winner last week from the Talladega Super Speedway, was able to pull off the 99 car going to Talladega Victory Lane in back-to-back seasons. Of course, back in season 1, it was the eventual champion Matthew Robinson that was the winner there, and Kerfan, as a result of that victory as well, ended up putting himself second in the overall standings, just 24 points behind the current points leader, Chris Woodard. So obviously a lot of momentum on his side, looking good to make his way into the eventual playoffs, as Zachary Woods there in the 60 was just on pit road, but he's lost a couple of laps now under green flag conditions. But going back to Kerfan, we saw him get involved in that wreck, the second caution of the day. He's already a fast repair in the hole. How in the world, even though you know that your point situation looks good, how in the world do you get yourself mentally focused again, getting ready for the remainder of this race, knowing that you've only made it at the point that he had his incident about maybe 20 laps into a 200 lapper?
I think that you have to start focusing on running consistently rather than running aggressively. At this stage in the race, you definitely want to just turn the laps, not necessarily try to put yourself into battles for position if you don't need to. If you know that you have a fast car and you can stay within eye shot of the leaders. Right now, running in 5th place, and he can see Trey Whitehead, Christopher Lawrence, DJ Daniel, and Tom Bourne right up the road. So it's not like he's lost touch with anybody. He can still get up to them. Having that feeling of being in control and just running the laps, as you see, not trying to push the issue with the lap machine of Gardner, just trying to get around. Whoa! Oh goodness!
That was close.
Speaking of running consistently, the commentator's curse almost struck, but was able to hold on to it. Avoiding incidences like that. That's what you have to do in order to get to the end of this race, knowing that you don't have any more safeguards going forward. But it's easy for him to do it, and I say that even given what just happened, it's easy for him to do in this position. He's got no one in front of him, directly in front of him. He had a Whitehead, but again, they're running similar laps, not really a slower car. You've got really nobody behind you that's faster, so you can just focus on running your laps, running your race. And at the end of the race, or at the end of the cycles, you might find yourself in a third, second, maybe even a win. But definitely getting to the end of the race and getting into long haul mode is definitely what you have to do in this situation.
This great battle for the 3rd position between Trey Whitehead and Christopher Lawrence. Lawrence a little loose there off of turn 2. Alexander Kerfan here tonight, carrying the name of serviceman Gary Jock, proud member of the Army Reserve. And we saw those drivers there that were having some issues or just made some pit stops. Let's document where they are now. Vickery, after his pit stop, is 21st, first car 1 lap down. Zach Woods just got one of his 2 laps back there. You see what the fresh tires will do as he gets around race leader Tom Bourne, so now move him to 22nd, 1 lap down. Ron Gartner, who had that heart-stopping moment off of 2, near contact with Alexander Kerfan, he is 2 laps down in 23rd. David Modespa right now scored 4 laps down, and Patrick McQuaid currently 5 laps down to the race leader. We had an exchange up inside the top 10. Ryan Sizemore getting around Chris Hubka as he's theoretically leading that second group there with Hubka, Gene Cato, Kyle Gartner.
Sizemore and company has really turned on the jets in the last few laps. They closed the gap onto the top 9 and has now cracked into it. We'll have to watch them to see if they can get through here, but it really has just been this train of Sizemore, Hupka, Cato, and Gartner. They've been able to get into this line and make up some pretty good time as well. The interval is still just under 5 seconds up the road to TJ Roberts, although they are slowly closing in that gap lap after lap. It was, I believe, 4.9 the last time around. Now we're running in the high 4.7. So progress is being made, and if they keep running the way that they are, they will catch up to the top 8. But then again, catching and passing are 2 different things. And we might have a pit cycle come in before that might break up that train, as there's actually some battling within this group, because Cato and Hupka have just swapped places. Not sure if that's strategic, because it didn't seem like Hupka put up much of a fight for the 10th place spot, but as they run, still trying to catch up to these leaders. Now, if they have been put in this position because due to outside forces, i.e. they weren't trying to be in this position, do you think that running around in a group of cars like this, outside of another group of cars but still within range to make a attack if you need to, you think that's a relatively good strategy? I know that it works in super speedways pretty well, but I don't know if it translates to a mile and a half very well. It's certainly been tried, but what's your opinion on this strategy particularly?
Well, it does translate. You are able to save some fuel if you run in the draft of another car at the mile and a half, even the 2 mile speedways. The one thing you're going to deal with, though, is you're going to be getting all that dirty air. Now, we have seen drivers be able to run the top and the bottom of the racetrack here in the battles that we've seen, but I think the thing you want to mostly do is make sure that that car is going to handle the way that you want it to. We've seen a lot of drivers really loose off the corner. Drivers now dealing with the difficulty of the cars getting tight, especially off of turn 4. You saw right there Christopher Lawrence having to yank the wheel hard left to avoid going up into that outside wall. So I think, in all honesty, I don't know if necessarily fuel is a key concern or fuel saving is a key concern for these drivers, because a lot of them are all in the same pit sequence. I think right now you just want to get clean air to the nose, have that car be handling as best as you possibly can. And we didn't know exactly what the fuel number is. I'd put it somewhere in between 45 to 50 laps, because remember, we saw Herberton not come to pit road at all since the drop of the green flag. He just about 3 laps ago made his first pit stop of the evening. Granted, he would have been able to save some laps under the pacing laps that we had with our first 3 cautions of the evening. So that's why I'm kind of given a little bit less than the 57 laps he was able to make. I would say we're looking probably in the 45 to 48 lap range that these drivers can probably make on a tank of fuel.
And if that's the case, then we should be seeing some of these leaders on pit road in the next 10 or so laps if that holds up. So we'll keep an eye out for them as the battle for the lead has gotten closer, as DJ Daniel has caught up to the 54. Hasn't been able to really mount a charge, but we'll have to keep tabs on whether or not he can do so. Something that is happening is a battle for third place, because it was happening for third place, but about a lap or so ago, Trey Whitehead was able to get around another driver, although I think that driver's pitted, because I don't see him running out on the racetrack unless, it was Christopher Lawrence. I thought it was still. Christopher Lawrence traded places with Whitehead, and Whitehead has put on some jets. He is about a half a second, almost more than, or just under a second gapped back to Lawrence. So that 33 definitely had some speed that he was trying to hold back a little bit on, as he's now trying to run down our 2 leaders.
You probably have to wonder too, how much of those good years did Lawrence use up trying to get the 3rd position away from Trey Whitehead, and how much of a fight did Trey Whitehead put up at that moment in time? How much was he conserving to be able to mount a counter attack and get that 3rd position back? Let's highlight another driver who's up inside the top 10 right now, carrying on a service member on the driver banner. Ryan Sizemore has his great uncle, Private First Class James Ray Sizemore, drafted in 1961 to the U.S. Army, went through basic training in Fort Stewart, Georgia. After basic training, went to Vietnam, worked as a mechanic in the motor pool, but ended up seeing combat as he was working on a Jeep outside the base. A VC enemy snuck up behind him and stabbed him in the back. Fortunately, he survived, was honorably discharged in 1964. He passed away in June 29th, 2002. He loved Chevrolets, and so Ryan is honored here tonight to have his great uncle on his Chevrolet Camaro, and right now doing a great job there up inside of the top 10 in the 9th position, just ahead of a possible exchange for 10th between Gene Cato and Kyle Gartner.
Now, these two have been battling side by side pretty well the last few laps. Chris Hupka has kind of fallen off the speed wagon, I should say. He's gone backwards more than he's been going forwards, and now that's allowed Kyle Gartner to mount this charge against Gene Cato. Now, Cato has been trying to hold up inside this top 10 for the better part of the last 15 laps or so. He's gotten into 10th place. He's not tried to, kind of moved up to the outside line and diving it down in the middle to the low side, down through turn 1 and 2. He's been doing that a couple of laps now. You think that the high side is now starting to come in later in the run, because we mentioned Atlanta, and we saw a lot of drivers running the outside line around Atlanta. We're starting to see, as the race progresses, more drivers trying to use that outside line to their advantage, although right now, Cato just lost position.
Man, that's the race lead trading paint. DJ Daniel and Tom Bourne. My goodness, we nearly had the top 2 wrecked off of 2.
Whoa!
We're going to exchange some more paint there through 3 and 4.
More contact between Daniel and Bourne. Now Daniel gets the advantage on the inside and has gotten cleared by a couple car lengths, but that could have been disastrous for our 2 leaders, given that that was right in front of a lap machine as well. So might have taken it, if they made contact, it might have swept him up as well. But now the battle's still raging on. It's not over yet, because now Bourne's trying to catch back up. I don't know if he got a piece of the wall, but it sure was close if he didn't.
But that size down that blue line, that's what pushed him up off of 2.
Now, as the race progresses, like I was saying, we're seeing some drivers trying to use that outside line. I don't know if it's really working out or not. This track surface is so much different from Atlanta, and we saw that just on the previous exchange, the guy on the outside line was able to make it work, but just barely. So, I don't know. What do you think as the race goes on? The track conditions certainly are getting better for these drivers, though.
Well, if anything, I think that maybe running that outside line. Whoa! Who's that up there? Was that Trey Whitehead out of shape? Yeah, trying to get around a slower machine. I think that was the 35 of Wesley Fuller that he was trying to pass, and the 2 made some contact there on the back straightaway. He gathers it up, keeps it going. I'll go back to your question there. I think that running that outside line might actually help preserve the tires a little bit more. You run the inside line, the longer the run goes on, we know that that right front tire heat is building up. The car is going to be tight through the center and push up off the corner. It's just going to continue to be like a cheese grater to that right front tire. If you run the top side, especially on entry, you can then kind of diamond the corner and go down to the bottom through the middle, then let it ride up off the corner, coming off of either 2 or 4. I think that maybe that's why we're seeing drivers go up to that outside line, not necessarily to make up ground, but just to make sure that that tire stays intact.
The tires are a big premium at this racetrack, although not as big of an issue as we saw at Atlanta, the only other mile-and-a-half track we've gone to so far this season. Now that one will kill tires for sure, but this track, it's a little bit more lenient, a little bit new, or a lot newer racing surface for these drivers to run on. Tires might not be as big of an issue, although it is a big issue at any track that you go at. We're getting close to the window where these drivers would be starting to make green flag stops. In fact, we're in the window right now if the window is indeed that. I saw someone coming off pit road just now. It was a white car. That would be Clifford Corveau coming off of pit road.
Corveau right now 3 laps down in that 38 machine. I mean, this race is completely turned on its head. We had those 3 early cautions in the first 20 laps of this race. Now, with DJ Daniel and Tom Bourne setting the pace that they did while also closing up the battle for the race lead, we have ourselves a total, as I believe Tom Bourne's hit pit road, we have ourselves a total of only 13 cars on the lead lap. And if we complete this green flag cycle, we may have as little as 10 drivers on the lead lap when everything cycles around.
It's going to be hectic when we get the cycle through and see really who's coming out where, as Bourne is the first of the top 10, I believe, to hit the pit road. Hits his marks flawlessly, and it'll be a 4-tire stop for the 54 as DJ Daniel stays out on pit road. So the window is correct. We were right in the window. In fact, here comes Whitehead. Here comes, I believe that's Kerfen coming out with him. It'll be our next 2 on pit lane. And I think Brock Whitehead is also coming down pit road now. So the window is correct that Seth predicted. So yeah, this really plays in the fact, what are we going to see the rest of the race? Because we're not even halfway yet. And given the fact we have so much further to go, do you now start thinking about fuel strategy and further down the line? Because at this point, a 2-stop is definite. To see if you can make it in only 2 stops, that's kind of asking a lot. It's definitely going to come down to a 3rd stop, but when do you make that 3rd stop? Do you short pit? Do you come in and try to get the fuel to be in a place where you can come down and get fresh tires without having to be pressured for fuel? Now opens the fun part if you like crew chiefing.
Yeah, there's only one person in each respective team here that knows the answer to those questions. That's the driver themselves. It's incredible to me. A lot of these drivers don't work with a spotter. They actually just do everything on their own. And I don't know how you can go out there, turn laps, be running side by side with somebody, and all the time be calculating in your head, hey, if I come to pit road at this point, then I'll have this amount of fuel to be able to make it to the end. It just completely baffles me as Christian Ruse pulls into the attention of his crew. Now, we saw what happened when Zach Woods came down pit lane, was able to get one of his 2 laps back, blew by the race leaders with the fresh tires. I'm shocked that DJ Daniel has waited this long. He's now coming in, but this is about 3 laps after Tom Bourne came to pit road. These two cars look relatively equal. Bourne's going to have the speed advantage here. 3-lap fresher tires, at least 2 hot laps he's going to be able to turn, and he's going to have himself a pretty sizable gap, I think, over DJ Daniel with the cycles around. Really shocked that DJ Daniel, after Bourne hit pit road, did not come down the following lap.
Absolutely. You thought that they would have wanted to pit together to be on the same cycle, but definitely Daniel trying to see how far he can stretch and still be competitive. And a couple of other drivers have done it further than he has. TJ Roberts stayed out 1 extra lap going down pit road, now 49 laps into his stint. Christopher Woodard behind him now coming down pit road, and we should see Kyle Gardner on pit road as well. So those are the last holdouts onto the pit lane. Tom Bourne has come out around. He might cycle around as the leader, as DJ Daniels is going to fall back quite a bit to Tom Bourne. There's a lot of drivers between him and the 54.
A long ways back. He's losing spots to Trey Whitehead, Dylan Herberton, Jason Gracias. Now, bear in mind, Gracias and Herberton are off pit sequence with everybody else, so they'll be on pit lane sooner than these other drivers. Tom Bourne right there just took the race lead back. Trey Whitehead's going to slot into second place. The gap about 3 seconds between those two, so while right now it seems a costly mistake for DJ Daniel, of course, he's probably got something in mind here for maybe later on in this race. We're not even halfway, and the strategizing is already taking place.
Absolutely. And according to my calculations, these drivers can make it on 2 stops because the gap is, or the window is anywhere from 44 laps to 49 laps, as we saw a few drivers be able to stretch it to 49 laps before they had to come down pit road. Now, that being said, when they make that final stop, they're only going to have about 25 laps or so to go, because that would, if they stretch it out to the maximum each time, then they would come down pit road around lap 175, 176. Being a 200-lap race, that would put you well within the range of being able to make it all the way to the end if we do stay under green. So with that in mind, now that you know that you can comfortably make it on a 2-stop strategy from here on out, what mode do you get into now? What kind of mentality do you get into, knowing that you have so long to go, and the fuel strategy race really isn't going to be much different than you could even pit on a 45-lap stint strategy and still make it to the end of the race comfortably. So now that that's pretty much taken a weight off of your mind, what mode do you go into now to try to get to the end of the race?
The mode that I call conservatively aggressive. I mean, we're seeing, obviously, every driver in the field having to deal with traffic, whether it be a battle for position or maybe a lap machine they're trying to get around. You've got to make sure you put that car in your rearview mirror. I mean, look right here as we've got this battle from 7th on back to around the 10th position. Kerfan, Brock Whitehead, Christopher Woodard. These guys right now realize that this battle on track, you want to be that car leading this group. You want to be up in the 7th position because you don't know what the second half of this race is going to bring. On the flip side of that as well, though, you want to make sure that you preserve your equipment. I mean, some of these guys, some big names out here, are already a faster pair in the hole. Kerfan, the 99, is one of those drivers. So while you want to make sure that oh man, did he get a little bit of a shove there on the front straightaway. Got really loose courtesy of Woodard. Nice save, but I mean, you cannot afford to have that thing wrecked because your lifeline is gone. So it's a balancing act for these drivers, no doubt about it. You got to pick up the spots when they are available to you now with how spread out the field is, but at the same time, you've got to make sure the equipment underneath you is still going to be able to get you to the finish, at least the second half of this race, with a shot of winning this event.
And Kerfan was one of those drivers that was up in the top 5 the last time around before the cycle of stops. He's now fallen back to 8th place. Has actually gotten passed by Christopher Woodard. Now, this is the biggest group of cars running on the racetrack, battling for position at the moment, as you've got Woodard, Kerfan, Brock Whitehead, Ryan Sizemore, and TJ Roberts in this group, making up 7th through 11th place. Up at the front, Tom Bourne is not alone either. He's got some lap traffic he's got to have to deal with going around this racetrack. Oh, behind him, there's somebody in the wall. That was it Ron Gardner that just got into the wall behind him? I think he might have arced it in too late and actually went up and smacked the outside
Oh, we got a
wall.
caution! We got a caution. Dylan Herberton and Alexander Kerfan have made contact with each other. That was a battle, I believe, around the 5th or 6th position.
Well, if it was Kerfan, that would have been back behind in 7th place. So, oh, that was a lap machine, I think, that might have caused this. No? Oh, goodness, going down the back straightaway.
Take a look and see Dylan Herberton. I think actually Herberton was battling with the 24 of Chris Woodard. Very slow there on the back straightaway. Oh, wow.
I don't think that Herberton knew that he wasn't clear.
Certainly came up the track. There's no doubt about that. And then a wild ride there for Alexander Kerfan. That's more than likely evening done for last week's winner and second in the points, Kerfan. Let's take another angle at this because there might have been a little bit of what we call gap whack that took place here. But at the same time, this should give us a good idea. Watch as he drifts up the track there. How do you not know you're clear, though? Because 27 had the 99 all the way alongside him. It wasn't as if there was a blind spot there, at least not from the perspective we're showing.
And to be fair, though, there was a pretty big gap between the 24 and the 99, although at the same breath, you should be able to slot in line before that, although the close rate from the 99 was so much greater. I don't know how you're able to judge trying to get into line there, but whatever the case is, whatever led up to that incident, there was contact. It wasn't the famed gap whack. It's definitely contact between the 27 and the 99, and that is unfortunate. We had been talking about the state of the 99 being without a fast repair, and then kind of the commentator's curse gets to Kerfan as he is stranded without a rear deck lid on pit road trying to get the 99 repaired. Now, this is big points for him. He doesn't want to retire the car, given the fact that if anyone else has issues, he can make up some positions and still remain pretty high up in the point standings. So, not a DNF situation for the 99, but definitely going to take him out of contention for a win tonight, as they are pacing around on the back straightaway, trying to get lined up again. It's just an unfortunate situation, really.
Like Zachary Woods gets the free pass here under this caution. We're going to have 14 drivers on the lead lap when we get ready to go back green. I don't think we're going to see Tom Bourne come to pit road, so no drivers will have the option of taking the wave around. So it will officially be 14 drivers on the same lap as race leader Tom Bourne when we get back under the green flag. And yeah, in the case of Alexander Kerfan, we got to remind everybody that the playoff system that they have here in BackFire is not the win and you're in system. It's the top 16 drivers in the overall points. So even though he had that win at Talladega last week, he's got to keep himself up there in the point standings. Talking about Kerfan, as do a number of other drivers. It's all about consistency here in this league. And so here tonight, a couple of drivers that are up there in the point stands have hit a bit of a bump in the road here tonight at Charlotte, and will be looking to bounce back next week when we head to the Magic Mile of New Hampshire Speedway. Real quickly, want to thank all of the sponsors here tonight. Of course, the Sibanovsky Lighting sponsoring tonight's race. Also, Hubka Real Estate. Like them on Facebook at Erica Hubka Realtor. Blackgate Security. Check them out on Facebook. JKR Motorsports, like them on Facebook and Instagram. Auto Ventures LLC, based in Hudsonville, Michigan. Premier used car, truck, and SUV dealer with the cleanest selection and the lowest prices. Visit www.avcarsales.com to learn more. And Junior's Mobile Detailing, based in Marion, North Carolina. Simply the best. Find them on Facebook and schedule your detail today. A big thank you to all the sponsors here tonight for the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series, as moments away from getting the green flag once again, not quite to the halfway point of this race. And let's highlight another driver that's carrying another service member on their driver banner here tonight. How about Chris Hubka making his return? We saw him hit with his first start back last week after being hit with the coronavirus pandemic. Second start since his return. Hubka in that number 5 for Rebel Racing, honoring a friend of his dad, Corporal Ronald Stowers. Ron was in the 9th Infantry Division out of Fort Lewis, Washington. He was a division armorer, expert with a .45 pistol, M16A1 rifle, M16 machine gun, M203 grenade launcher, 50 caliber machine gun. I know Anthony will know what these are. I have no idea. He also taught a company of British commandos how to fire all the weapons and received Army Accommodation Mandela from Secretary of the Army for consolidating the 9th Infantry Division's weapons during a division cold weather maneuver at Fort Drum, New York. He was stationed in Germany for a year and a half in the 3rd Armored Division, guarded and watched over the Czechoslovakian border as well. Obviously, it goes without saying, a tremendous amount of thanks to all the service members that we are announcing here tonight on these drivers' banners. Still a lot more to come, but still a lot more race to come here as well, so plenty of time to be able to name them all off. And Anthony, the lights are out top of the pace car. It's time to turn them loose one more time here at Charlotte.
We are moments away from going back under green. Tom Bourne will be your leader. Trey Whitehead in 2nd place. Good news for these drivers that had just come down pit road. Now that the field's bunched up, they are back under level playing ground, so to say. No one has really gotten backlogged with the gaps. Back together again for the restart as safety car peels off. And Bourne not waiting around. Green flag back in the air, and Bourne with a good restart, getting a couple of car lengths back to Whitehead as DJ Daniel trying to go back under the inside for 2nd place as he's got Christopher Lawrence joining him on the inside line to freight train the 33.
I guarantee you the driver that did not want to see that caution come out was Tom Bourne. The driver that did was DJ Daniel, because Daniel now has the 3-lap pressure tires over the 54 machine, who had that near 3-second gap next to his nearest competitor. Now that's all closed up, and here comes DJ Daniel with a huge run out of turn 4, right up to the back bumper of that Toyota Camry. Takes a peek here going into 1.
Christopher Woodard and Trey Whitehead almost trading paint. There was some contact there. That might have been gap whack, really. I don't think there was any contact between him and the 33, but now that's going to open the door for Brock Whitehead to go around Trey Whitehead as Sizemore trying to go 3 wide down the back straightaway into 3. Could not do it. Will now slot behind them as DJ Daniel side by side for the lead with Tom Bourne.
Who's going to lead this lap? I think might have been the 23 by possibly a splitter there at the start-finish line. Has the advantage going into 1. More contact between these two. These guys continue to trade paint for the top position. Bourne's not going to be denied, though. Big run there out of turn 2 on the top. Look at Woodard. Left, right, darting down the back straightaway.
And don't count out Christopher Lawrence. He almost thought about taking the 3 wide for the lead, but thought better of it. Now to the inside goes Daniel, trying to get the pass done on the inside, but this time can't quite get it done. He will lead the race at the line, but now here comes Lawrence. What do you think of the chances that Lawrence tries to steal the lead for these two?
If he's got a shot, he will take it, I guarantee you. Whoa, Trey Whitehead pushing up the track back there, almost into Gracias. But look at this. Throw a blanket over the top 10, only a second separating them all. It's like pack racing at a super speedway, but this is Charlotte, still side by side for the lead. Lawrence looking to see where the advantage is going to go. DJ Daniel finally clears for the top spot as we're nearly 3 wide. We are 3 wide back there for the 4th spot.
3 wide between Gracias, Woodard, and Whitehead, and Gracias gets in front and tries to get away from the 24. This 8 machine has been all over the place, and now we're finding him up fighting for the 3rd place position with Tom Bourne, who's lost the lead and going backwards as he's being pushed down the back straightaway.
Bourne from the lead back to 3rd. Might lose another spot to Chris Woodard, who's now on his outside. Gracias took a look to maybe go 3 wide. Now he'll jump up to the top side on Tom Bourne. Lonely Toyota Camry surrounded by a field of Camaros up here inside the top 7.
And at the front of the field, DJ Daniel trying to pull away, but Christopher Lawrence has got into 2nd place, trying to close in on the race leader. Christopher Woodard in a battle pretty heatedly right now, but here comes Gracias on the outside line. We've been saying it all day that the outside line just didn't seem that very strong in the opening stages of the race, but now that the track has been completely bathed in darkness, it's definitely kicking in. It might have been a late time coming, but now you've got the new tool to use to try and get around cars. As now to the inside goes Gracias on Woodard. He might be able to make the pass if he doesn't make contact with him back straightaway, that is.
Very aggressive is Jason Gracias, but he's got to be careful because he has already used his faster pair. He can ill afford here, not even halfway through, of having a second incident and possibly bringing his evening to an early end. That's what's happened to Dylan Herbertson in the 27. Saw him involved in that latest incident. He is in the garage area, going to be finishing in the 25th position. Tough break there for him. Condolences going out to the Herberton family, as well as he had his grandfather, Private Herberton, on his driver banner here tonight, and this evening marked the month mark since his grandfather's death. So obviously racing with a heavy heart here tonight, would have loved to have given his grandfather a good performance. Man, the 8's into the wall after contact with Lawrence. Look at them all scatter. The 33 of Trey Whitehead actually go through the infield grass.
But give credit to the 8 Machine team for trying to hold on to it. He actually does do that going into turn 1. Didn't lose it, continuing to battle. We should be seeing Gracias back up into the fray momentarily, but a great save on the part of him. But now that moves Woodard up to third place and basically moves everyone up one spot that was behind him. And now Gracias is, trying to take it 3 wide between Bourne and TJ Roberts, but that wasn't going to work on the outside line. But now you can see that the speed's still there in the 8. He hasn't lost any of it. Just trying to get around the side-by-side battle in front of him for the 6th position.
Bourne's in big trouble. He's now faded back to 6th, and I wonder if this is because he spent a good portion of this race out in front, had the clean air, was not used to what the car was possibly going to do back in traffic, and now he's kind of having to relearn it all over again, probably dealing with that tight sensation off the corner, and drivers who have been back in traffic taking advantage of the loss of momentum. Gracias, he was just in the wall moments ago, 2 laps ago in that same corner. He's now back to the top side, looking for 6th on the 54. How about TJ Roberts? Great run for the 11 car as well, as he's currently holding down the 8th spot.
And he was in the side-by-side battle with the aforementioned Bourne moments ago, but now is again trying to get back into it. He's actually pushing the 8 down the back straightaway, and now Gracias sails it into turn 3. He's going to get the position done. He's going to have a lot of momentum going to chase down Brock Whitehead as he's maybe try to pull up around the outside line again. If anybody's been able to make the outside line work to his advantage, it's definitely been this 8 Machine. Have to see if he can use it to his advantage later on in the evening, but he hasn't lost any speed even after hitting the outside wall. Now they're around the back straightaway.
That's Brock Whitehead in the 31, hard into the inside wall. Caution is going to fly. Oh, and Tom Bourne just went down into the 8 Machine, I do believe.
So double effect from the 8 Machine. I think that Gracias was able to hold on to it, but there is some heavy rear end damage on the 8 now. After the fact, it couldn't have been retaliation, I don't think. I think that he came back up on the racetrack.
Look here at what happened off of 2. Gracias had a big run. Just brushed the wall barely. Man, Brock Whitehead, hard hit there. Almost hit that opening into the infield. Doing such a great job here this evening. A lot of damage to the right rear, especially on that 31 Machine. Does have a faster pair available, but then let's look and see what happened with Gracias a little bit later on there.
There's actually contact between the 49 and the 54 that led into the contact with Gracias.
It would be Kyle Gartner.
It looks like that they were all trying to check up for the incident, and Gardner went up on the racetrack. I think he was preemptively avoiding the 8 to re-merge onto the racetrack, but then he didn't realize that Bourne was to his outside, and they got clipped, and then Bourne smacks the wall, comes down into the 8, and gives him some extra damage.
Good call. I think that's exactly what happened. Pit road open. Just about everybody ducking onto pit lane, with the exception of Mike Sibanovsky in the 22, so he'll get himself at least a lap led here tonight. Battle off pit road. It's going to be Chris Woodard in the 24. He's just barely going to edge his teammate DJ Daniel. Lawrence Whitehead, Trey Whitehead in 33 that is, and Tom Bourne are going to be the top 5 leaving pit lane, so they will line up more than likely. Oh, correction. DJ Daniel, I guess, won the battle off of pit road. He would have that number 2 pit stall after starting the scene on the outside of the front row, so that must have given him an advantage. And now I'm seeing Woodard even drop back further, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Of course, there is a commit. I might have actually seen them down at the second line, which I don't think is the end of pit road's commitment line as far as pit road speed. The commitment line's actually further back at the very end, the front end of the first pit stall. So, what looked like when we came back looked like who was out in front at that time. It's probably just them battling to that commitment line. DJ Daniel, though, more than likely got back to the timing line before everybody else.
We might be seeing the 24 back on the pit road. I went back and looked at it again, and he looked awful fast coming off of the exit of pit road. He might have been caught with a speeding penalty that he potentially will have to serve under green. That might be the reason why he's fallen all the way back to 11th place, because on the battle out, him and DJ Daniel were side by side, but now as we are watching it live, he is running currently on the racetrack in the 11th spot, and with no indication of going forward, is actually running the apron. I think he might have gotten tagged for speeding.
Could very well be right. Lucky dog driver was the 88 of Noah Owens, and it looks like 3 drivers will be electing to take the wave around here under this caution. Joshua Billiter, Wesley Fuller, and Zachary Wood, so we should have 17 drivers on the lead lap when we get ready to go back green. Mentioning Noah Owens, there was actually some news this week that Noah Owens, formulating his own team, piloting Ford Mustangs, Blue Motorsports is the name of the team. Noah Owens and Clifford Corveau, the drivers for that team. So new team getting started here after the midway point of the season, and we'll see how they do. Noah Owens right now the highest of the two in the 12th position. Corveau still soldiering on, 1 lap down in the 19th position. And Noah Owens here tonight as Lieutenant Corporal William Schleiger on his machine. Served in the Vietnam War, in the Marines, nearly got captured, but was able to escape. And Noah Owens in that new Ford Mustang. Gonna have to get used to that. So used to seeing him in a Chevrolet Camaro. Right now going to be towards the tail end of the field here, since he is one of the last drivers on the lead lap, but doing a good job here so far. Been keeping his nose clean. Has used a faster pair, however, so we'll try and preserve that car for the remainder of this race. We finally entered into the second half of tonight's festivities. And remember when I said, Anthony, it's inside line all night long? Well, DJ Daniel just proved me a liar.
Yeah, he is elected the outside line this time around. He did look like he was going to be on the inside line. It looked like he had a last-minute change of heart. Will now start on the outside line for this restart with Christopher Lawrence to his inside. And this might be the shift that we've been anticipating for the second half of the race. We are just over halfway. In fact, the yellow came out right at the halfway point, so have an entire half to go still. But this is, again, probably the moment that we're going to see the shift. Someone that was very thankful to see the yellow flag, even though that he was part of it, is Tom Bourne. He'll be restarting in 4th place alongside of Trey Whitehead as the safety car pulls off onto the pit lane. Get ready to set these guys back under green. Daniel with a great restart again will get away and clear just about a few car lengths back to Christopher Lawrence, who's in a battle right now between Bourne and Whitehead on the restart. Everyone else filing down to the outside and inside line.
Getting into the second half of this race, and things are getting spicy now in terms of who's going to have a car left by the time we get to the checkered flag. When that green flag dropped, only 3 drivers inside the top 10 still had their faster pair available, only 5 inside of the top 15.
And that will be big talk of the town late in the race if you have to be in a position to use it. We've seen that these leaders, they are not afraid to battle like it's the last lap, even though they hadn't gotten to halfway. There was some paint being shared between Daniel and Bourne the last exchange, and I don't expect to see anything different, but I think that was Cato.
And everyone avoids him as he clobbered the inside wall.
Whoa!
Caution is going to fly. My goodness, how were there not more drivers involved?
That was some good heads-up driving by everyone behind him. It looks like it was slow going for the 2 machine. It didn't snap, and I think everyone was able to anticipate it, but everyone able to avoid. Man, that's hard luck for Kato because he was running extremely well. Had a car with pace to potentially finish inside the top 5.
That is more than likely evening over, or at least takes Gene Cato out of the picture for this victory, as he was a driver that had already used up his faster pair. And talk about a shot into the inside wall. Let's watch this again. Hard to the outside wall. I think that was Ryan Sizemore that just barely avoided him. And then Zachary Woods, yikes! Just barely avoided his teammate there. Boy, if we had a heart monitor, I'd love to know the heart rate speed on the 60 car.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, there might have been the slightest bit of contact with Woods, but at the same moment, that is incredible heads-up driving. I don't know if he really knew where he was on the racetrack. He was on the inside line, although he was kind of forced to be down there, was Woods, but great heads-up driving from the 60 team, but heartbreak for the 2 team as they are done as the engine has blown up on the race car, and I don't think that they have a faster pair that they can use, so that might be it for the 2 team. Is now we're back under pacing just over halfway, and if you're Gene Cato, it's an early exit, and it's a shame because he had a fast car. For you other drivers, it's a bit of a wake-up call that your race could end at any moment. Doesn't matter how high you are up in the field. He was running in the top 10, was Cato, when this incident occurred.
Yeah, right now, Gene Cato, Alexander Kerfan, Patrick McQuaid, these are drivers that up to this point have not been involved in just one but multiple incidents this evening, and so they are looking like they will certainly not be in the picture for the victory. They're just going to try and soldier on here tonight and reap whatever points they possibly can. Again, with a points-based playoff system, even a 20th place finish can be better than a 25th place finish because you never know what the point scenario might look like for you to get into the top 16 when the checkered flag waves at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and in a few weeks. So these drivers, if the engine still is capable of running, you got to get back out there, log as many laps as you possibly can. That's what Alexander Kerfan is currently in the process of doing. Of course, having to spend that near half hour to 45 minutes on pit road to get the engine repaired, but he's still on pit road, still getting those repairs done 25 laps down. But when you consider the fact that we've got about 90 laps still left, depending on what happens still in this race and when he gets back out there, there still could be 1 or 2 positions to be gained for him. So keep an eye on the 99. We'll keep you updated on if any drivers return back to the racetrack that currently are sitting on pit road getting a lot of damage repaired. But on the flip side, there have been some other guys that have done a pretty good job here tonight of keeping themselves out of trouble. One of them is on the lead lap in the 13th position, Wesley Fuller. I believe he's making his debut here tonight, and he's done a very good job. He did fall a lap down earlier in this race, but a lot of different cautions and scenarios, wave arounds, they have really helped him out to be able to get back inside the top 15 and on the lead lap. Wesley Fuller has his grandfather Donald Fuller on his driver banner here tonight. He was drafted, served in the Army, and fought in the Korean War. And he's also running the blacked out American flag scheme here tonight. He's running the blacked out scheme because it means the opposite of the white flag. No quarters, will not surrender, and will not back down. That just kind of sums up his race here tonight as well. He has not backed down, he has not surrendered, and right now looking good to maybe have a great finish in his debut.
Absolutely, and a strong run on a debut will definitely set up the rest of your season. If he decides to run the rest of the season, will definitely set it up for some big success. We've seen a lot of drivers in this league and other leagues when they get into the when they start racing for the first time, they really kick off if they have a strong showing. So I have to look to see if he does the same. Lights are out on top. The safety car about to go back to green flag. DJ Daniel again electing the outside line. It showed some success the last time by. Don't see any reason to change it, so he'll be on the outside. Christopher Lawrence make that will be down on the inside line, and then we'll have Brock Whitehead, and then TJ Roberts will make up the next 2 rows. We're in the halfway, or into the thick of the halfway part, or the second half of the race, and we've seen a shift in how these cars are handling, and we've seen a shift in how these drivers are taking the or driving around the racetrack a bit more aggressive, but again, kind of cautiously aggressive, as Seth coined it earlier. But we'll have to see if that holds out as we're getting ready to set them back under green flag on lap 112 of 200.
Into the halfway point of this race. It's going to be less than 90 laps when the green flag flies once again. Only working our 6th caution of the evening. If you go back to last season, there were 16 cautions during the course of that 200 lapper. Obviously, still a lot of time for us to maybe reach that moniker, but these guys have done a pretty good job here tonight of getting us some really long green flag runs. We'll see what we're in for here as DJ Daniel back up through the gears. Lawrence caught napping. Tom Bourne trying to take advantage. Not quite going to be able to get alongside of the 9 car going into turn 1.
Although they are still trying on the outside line. Tom Bourne has not been able to make that outside line work as other drivers have, as he's now falling back into the clutches of Trey Whitehead. He's got TJ Roberts on the inside line trying to make the position, although Roberts being taken all the way down to the inside line, and Whitehead gets a little bit unhappy going through turn 3. Settles it out for turn 4 as they single file out going down the front straightaway.
Those left sides down on that blue line again, separating the apron from the racetrack, did Trey Whitehead. That's at least the 2nd or 3rd time I've seen him go down to that low on the racetrack, and you're right, it definitely unsettles the race car. Take a look at some of the drivers that have peaked themselves up into the top 10 now. How about the 49 of Kyle Gartner? He's still looking for his first career win here in the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series. Was in the Final Four for the championship last season. And one thing I failed to mention when we came on the air, so far this year we have had 6 different winners in the first 6 races of the season. All 6 have been drivers picking up their first career victories in this series. So right now you'd have to look at someone like a Tom Bourne, a Trey Whitehead, Brock Whitehead. Those would be drivers that would fit the criteria to make us a 7-for-7 streak here this evening.
Right now they're doing fantastic of staying within the top 5 and top 10 in order to have a chance at it. As Trey Whitehead to the inside of Bourne yet again. Now, Bourne, ever since the last restart, has definitely gotten back into the swing of running some consistent laps. He was falling backwards pretty significantly before the halfway yellows came out, but now ever since then he's gotten back going in the right direction. And make that for Christopher Lawrence. He's been able to keep up with DJ Daniel, which Daniel's strategy of trying to pit earlier.
Ron Gartner in the 39 has gone around. That's over in turn 3. I believe another driver's collected. Yes, Zachary Woods in the 60.
This might be contact. Oh, wow, there was heavy contact, in fact. And this time, again, it was bound the back straightaway.
This time, it's completely opposite of what we saw earlier on the back straightaway, where the car on the inside came up. This time it was the car on the outside coming down. And you'll see even actually further back there, it might have been Fuller putting 38 of Corbeau into the wall, and then there's the contact there between Ron Gartner and Zachary Woods. Oh, Patrick McQuaid. And Corbeau also involved in this one there as he clobbered the 77. We'll take a look at that one. That was off on the left side of the screen after the initial contact between Woods and Gartner.
What was happening with Gardner? There was a lot of contact being made, but it just looked like that car just got some air underneath it and was able. The downforce basically said no.
Back down the track they came. Nowhere for Patrick McQuaid to go. Then he comes back up the track, and nowhere for Clifford Corbeau to be able to go. Saw that Ron Gartner had his hands full earlier on in this race, and I have to wonder too. You know, a lot of these drivers trying to stick it out with their damaged cars, you'd have to think that the damage they've got on those machines, it is affecting their race cars in a different way than what they felt earlier on in this race when their cars were at 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, you give any sort of aero damage to these cars, and it's going to feel different no matter what part of the racetrack you're on, and it's going to, you've ran an entire race or up until this point driving the car a certain way, and then you basically have to learn how to drive it on the fly, because something that might be different about how the car bites into the turn or on the exits and down the straightaways, it can be throw off to a great deal, considering when you've practiced lap after lap and then you've gone through a half of a race driving a certain way, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, you got to learn how to do it this way now. could be the reason why we're seeing a lot of these drivers have some struggles that have been involved in incidences, even though that they might have come down and done a faster pair. Mentally, you've been in a crash. Now, even if you used a fast repair, it still doesn't take out the mentality that you've been in a crash. So nothing might be different about the car if you use a fast repair, but at the same time, you do feel like something is off, even though that it's psychologically, it's all psychologically, even though physically nothing's different. So might also be a reason why we're seeing some of these incidents happen with drivers who have gotten damaged and then get a fast repair, even, and it's even doubly so for people that haven't used a fast repair and has damage because they're actually physically feeling the difference.
Now, I'm not certain who the free pass car was here under this yellow. I think it might have possibly been the 14 of Christian Ruse, but I'm going to double check on that. So when we came back from the replay, I saw only one car one lap down. That's the 96 of Jeffrey Vickery, but Christian Ruse might have also been a lap down and getting the lucky dog here under this caution. We'll update on that in just a moment. Take the opportunity here under pacing to highlight another service member. This time we're going to highlight David Modespaux's #1 Toyota Camry, as he has Medal of Honor recipient Sergeant First Class Paul R. Smith on his driver banner here tonight. Sergeant First Class Smith distinguished himself by acts of gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty in action with an armed enemy near Baghdad International Airport, Baghdad, Iraq, on April 4th, 2003. On that day, Sergeant First Class Smith was engaged in the construction of a prisoner of war holding area when his task force was violently attacked by a company-sized enemy force. Realizing the vulnerability of over 100 soldiers, Sergeant First Class Smith quickly organized a hasty defense consisting of 2 platoons of soldiers, 1 Bradley fighting vehicle, and 3 armored personnel carriers. As the fight developed, Sergeant First Class Smith braved hostile enemy fire to personally engage the enemy with hand grenades and anti-tank weapons and organize the evacuation of 3 wounded soldiers from an armored personnel carrier stuck by a rocket-propelled grenade and a 60mm mortar round. Fearing the enemy would overrun their defenses, Sergeant First Class Smith moved under withering enemy fire to a .50 caliber machine gun mounted on a damaged armored personnel carrier. In total disregard for his own life, he maintained his exposed position in order to engage the attacking enemy force. During this action, he was mortally wounded. His courageous actions helped defeat the enemy attack and resulted in as many as 50 enemy soldiers killed while allowing the safe withdrawal of numerous wounded soldiers. Sergeant First Class Smith's extraordinary heroism and uncommon valor are in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service and reflect great credit upon himself, the 3rd Infantry Division, Rock of the Marne, and the United States Army. David Modespaux honoring the Medal of Honor recipient, Sergeant First Class Paul R. Smith, here tonight, right now, running in the 20th position, still in the race, albeit 4 laps down.
So now we're going to get set back to go to Green Flag Racing. It's going to be DJ Daniel and Christopher Lawrence out in front yet again. Safety car will peel off onto pit road. We'll get these cars back underway on lap 120 of 200. And again, another great restart from DJ Daniel. Will pull out another couple car lengths behind to Lawrence on the inside line, although Trey Whitehead trying on the outside line to make something happen, but Tom Bourne will get the advantage on the inside on the restart.
Him to 3rd, Whitehead back to 4th. Stacked up from 5th place on back. That's where TJ Roberts looks in his rearview mirror. He sees Ryan Sizemore. He sees Brock Whitehead, Kyle Gartner, and Christopher Woodard, a couple of teammates. They're going to mix it up for 8th.
And as they battle for 8th place.
Oh, Woodard! That's a little high.
Gartner down on the inside of the racetrack, hopping over the infield, trying to get it back on the racetrack and give him credit. Got back on and is still going in the right direction. Now battling back in 11th place with Jason Gracias, who's trying to make his way back through the field after being involved or having some contact earlier in the race. He's come back into 11th, now trying to get back into the top 10. He's a couple positions away from that. He's got to go through Kyle Gardner and Chris Hubka if he wants to do that, but still trying to mount a comeback charge.
Another car through the grass there as well when Kyle Gartner was through the infield. That was the 22 of Mike Sibanovsky. Both those drivers able to keep the car pointed in the right direction. But you mentioned about the fact we visibly saw the 49 car hop into the air with that transition down there around where the road course section would be, or the short oval on the front straightaway. How do you think that would affect a race car suspension-wise, or do you think it wasn't a high enough jump off the racing surface?
The initial bump might do some floor damage to the car, might have some front end suspension that you might crop up later.
Oh, no,
There they
Trey
go.
Whitehead and Chris Woodard hard into the wall. Look out oncoming traffic as everyone
No.
scatters to the apron. Somebody got him. I think that might have been Modespa.
And that was a battle within the top 10. Yeah, even the top 5 at the moment. Woodard finds himself down on the inside line, a destroyed 24 machine, as we see the remnants of David Modespa going down the back straightaway as looks like the 24 has gotten towed back to pit road.
I cast my memory back earlier. Remember we saw Trey Whitehead out of shape. I mentioned the 24 of Woodard was shoving him down the straightaway. I think this was the same case here. I think the 24 was right up on the back bumper of the 33, got him loose, and that's what eventually sent him down into, I think it was Brock Whitehead, and then back up the track, collecting Woodard up as well.
It almost looked like that the 33 checked up going through the middle of 1 into 2, and I don't know if Woodard quite reacted in enough time. It got right up on him, but there was contact made, and then I don't think that Whitehead made any other contact. I think he slotted in between 2 other cars and then shot up the racetrack trying to overcorrect it and took out Woodard with him.
Well, Woodard 24 does have a faster pair still left. Trey Whitehead in the 33, however, does not. This is a tough break for a driver that's been up, let's be honest, in the top 5 pretty much the entirety of the night. And that heavy impact to the front end of his machine is more than likely taking him out of this race, as well as that hard lick to the back with David Modespa. And I said it before with a couple of other incidents, and I'll say it again. I am shocked we didn't have more drivers involved, especially there. I mean, that's a smoke screen through the exit of a corner. Everybody, for the most part, made the right choice of getting down to the apron, but there could have been a lot more drivers collected up in that one. And again, as mentioned, there's not very many drivers left in the field that still have that faster pair intact.
Absolutely. It's going to be kind of the sense of keep your machine clean throughout the rest of the race. And we just saw a jarring reminder for a lot of these drivers with Trey Whitehead's departure from the race. You're not safe no matter where you're at. In fact, if you're battling within the top 10, then I would say that's probably the most unsafe place to be, because you're right there with the leaders of the race. You know that if you have a run that you could take it somewhere, that you could potentially get out in front. And with the way that these drivers have been driving, they're not too far off each other's pace. So passing around this racetrack is definitely a premium late in the run. When you have DJ Daniel and Tom Bourne kind of locking down the front row of the race, it becomes a game of catching up to them. I mean, you could interchange that with any driver, really, but when you're trying to catch the lead of the race, take that spot. Try to force your car into a situation where you know it's not going to fit, but that at that point of the race, it didn't seem like it was going to go anywhere. I mean, you're on the outside line. There's nowhere to take the run. And it just seemed like the 33 checked up in the middle of the turn. So, I mean, it's a hard one to call, but I don't blame anybody. It was a racing deal. You're just trying to take your shot and trying to make a pass. And if you meant, carrying speed with the hopes of maybe carrying the momentum down the back straightaway and dealing with it then it's a hard place to be in. But it is a jarring reminder that you don't have the safety nets at the beginning of the race like you had at the beginning of the race. So these drivers up the front, they're going to have to be thinking about that.
And sometimes, too, the last thing that a driver thinks about is that they've already used the faster pair, especially when the laps tick down. I mean, we are now entering into 75 laps to go. Every lap that ticks away, the moves get more and more aggressive. The risks are more worth the taking, and I think we're going to continue to see that here during the course of this race as we draw closer to that checkered flag. Gene Cato has taken his car back to the garage area. He will finish at least in the 23rd position. Trey Whitehead still on pit road with damage repair going on there. Chris Woodard did not really escape, though. He did get the fast repair done, but he lost 2 laps because he had to tow back to pit road. So he's going to have to rely on some caution flags. And now we will have 16 drivers on the lead lap when we get ready to go back under the race, under this green flag conditions here in this race. The driver that got the lucky dog under this caution this time was officially the 96 of Jeffrey Vickery, who is carrying Richard Allen Peterson on his Chevrolet of JKR Motorsports. A fighter ace and a major in the United States Army Air Forces, Peterson was born in Hancock, Minnesota, and attended the University of Minnesota. He left the university in June of 1942 to become an aviation cadet. After finishing flight training in March of 1943, Peterson was assigned to the 357th Fighter Group and had 15.5 air victories and destroyed 3.5 aircraft on the ground. His P-51 Mustang aircraft were named Hurry Home Honey after his wife's letter closing. After World War II, Peterson returned to the University of Minnesota and obtained a degree in architecture, which became his career. Peterson was awarded the Silver Star, Distinguished Flying Cross with 3 oak leaf clusters, the Air Medal with 10 oak leaf clusters. Richard Allen Peterson on the 96 car here this evening. Vickery up to the 14th position, back on the lead lap, and looking to make forward progress in the closing stages of tonight's race at Charlotte.
Speaking of getting back to green, safety car will come off onto pit road and we'll get ready to set them back. Daniel Bourne, your top 2 as we get set to go. This time Daniel on the inside line gets a great restart off the initial jump. He's going to get another gap back to second place. This time it's Tom Bourne in a battle with Christopher Lawrence on the inside line as Brock Whitehead on the outside line getting trained by the inside.
Bourne breaking up the Rebel Racing teammates now as he'll slot in front of Christopher Lawrence. Behind them, TJ Roberts, who lost the 4th spot to Brock Whitehead under fire from Ryan Sizemore. Look at Tom Bourne. Now he's going to try the top side, see what it's got in store off the corner. Lawrence going to get to his left rear quarter panel, though, so that'll be the battle for second, headed for 1.
And right now it's in favor of the 9 machine going into turn 1. Lawrence with a tiny bit edge, but this time around that could have been some contact. It almost was, but now Bourne will try to use that momentum to get around the 9. Although the way that these runs work in the beginning, it almost like the inside line, it does work significantly well on the beginning of a run, but then as the run progresses, the outside line comes in. The only one that I remember that we've seen make that outside line work flawlessly each and every time was Jason Gracias, but that was earlier in the night. I don't know if anyone else can make it work as well as he did, although Bourne is definitely trying his hardest as he's still battling side by side for second, but somehow, some way, not letting DJ Daniel get too far ahead.
Certainly is not, as Bourne might edge ahead here for second place off of 4. He will indeed do so. That loss of momentum by Lawrence now opens the door. Whitehead wanted to take a peek. He had to check up. Now TJ Roberts jumps to the top side. Of the drivers inside the top 10, 4 still have their fast repair intact. I find it ironic because 3 of them are DJ Daniel, Christopher Lawrence, and Chris Hubka. By the way, these guys all finished up inside the top 7 in last year's Charlotte race.
And now back, showing that experience is paying off tonight as they continue to show that they're dominant forces at this race battle for the lead. DJ Daniel to the inside of Tom Bourne. Looks like it might be all, make that the reverse. Tom Bourne to the inside of DJ Daniel. Tom Bourne trying to make the run down the back straightaway, work all of the outside line, prevails for the moment. Back to the inside, goes to 54. At the line, we might see Tom Bourne, but by the time we get to turn 1, we might see DJ Daniels. He's gotten a bit of help from his teammate behind him.
You can see they're trying to get that straightaway speed with the 2-car tandem. It doesn't exactly have the same effects as it would at a super speedway, but it will offer enough of a bubble-like push to get the 23 out in front, as that was awfully close off of turn 2. And remember, I mentioned there were 4 drivers up here with a faster pair intact. TJ Robertson at 11 is the 4th driver. He's now battling against the Sizemore Motorsports cars of Ryan Sizemore and Brock Whitehead. Whitehead will complete the pass. Now Sizemore looks to do the same.
Sizemore's been steadily creeping his way up into the top 5. Almost there on the outside looking in. He's got Chris Hubka right behind him. Remember, these 2 drivers were in a kind of a group all of their own about before midway at the race. Running outside the top 10, I believe it was, actually it was just inside the top 10. It was 9th through 13th. It was a group of both Sizemore and Hubka and a couple of other drivers. Now, they've made their way through cautions and just being in the right place at the right time, made their way inside the top 10, running 6th and 7th, right within eye shot of the lead of the race, and they've got competitive cars. This race isn't over yet for either of these 2. They might be able to pounce on something that might happen if these leaders continue to battle the way they are, because battle for 3rd place as Whitehead goes all the way down to the inside with Lawrence. Some contact almost, but give Brock Whitehead the 3rd place position.
Lawrence tried everything he could to pin the 31 down there. Could not do it. Whitehead prevails and moves up into the podium. And where in the heck did Clifford Corveau come from? The 38 up here inside of the top 10 now after early issues. Right now holding down the 8th position as he's got U.S. Navy seaman Benjamin Ross on his banner. Great comeback run for him here tonight.
And let's not forget that Kyle Gardner also was in a similar position to Clifford Corvo earlier in the race. He's now found his way back inside the top 10. He's actually going for 8th place over Corvo. So that 49 machine is also extremely quick. He's got some teammates that he can work with inside this top 10. So we'll have to see if he can link up with them. He's got one right in front of him in Chris Hubka.
We've got 16 drivers on the lead lap. Should we see a caution from now to the checkered flag? The next driver 1 lap down, which right now is Chris Woodard, would only get 1 of his 2 laps back. So everybody that's a lap down needs at least 2 cautions to be able to get back on the lead lap. So that's going to make things interesting here in the closing stages as Brock Whitehead, man, he's on a tear. He took the 3rd spot away from Lawrence. He's now going to take 2nd away from Tom Bourne. Look out, DJ Daniel. You may have a new competitor on your back bumper in the next couple of laps. If Whitehead can complete this pass as he makes some contact with Bourne, who may brush the wall just a tad there out of turn 2. And look at the loss of momentum and the loss of positions.
3 wide for a moment going down the back straightaway as Bourne falls back into a 6th place position. That could have been treacherous with the 24. Now, right now the 24 is running off the lead lap. He's 2 laps down is Woodard, but still running on pace after his faster pair. So he's trying to get 1 of his laps back. He's on fresher tires, trying to do that. If he can get this lap back, he actually is only 1 lap down. So if the caution comes out now, he would be, oh, I'm sorry, he's still 2 laps down. He's 1 lap down to the next interval. So he's 2 laps down. He could get 1 of his laps back, and if a caution would come out, he would be the lucky dog recipient. So right now, he's playing the quick game of get 1 of his laps back so he could be in the number 1 spot to get back on the lead lap, because that car is still fresh and ready to go after his faster pair. So wouldn't be surprised if we see some noise from this 24, although Bourne trying to get back up going again, and this has happened before where Bourne's fallen back, but he has the speed in order to get back up there.
Couple of guys back here outside the top 10 that still have their faster pair intact as well. We talked about Wesley Fuller in that 35. How about the guy right in front of him? Joshua Billiter in the 8. He was a lap down earlier on in this race. I think he got the lucky dog back during the 4th caution. He's now up in the 12th position. He just dropped to the 12th spot with Fuller getting around him, but he's still got his faster pair intact. That car is still up to speed. Great run right now for him as well, carrying Operations Specialist Chief Petty Officer James R. Covert Jr. on his Chevrolet out of Sizemore Motorsports.
I'm looking at this battle right now between 4th places. TJ Roberts gets sent up the wall. This is kind of showing the same scenes that we saw last time by when we had some contact happen. The 3 wide going down the front straightaway. That could be bad. They settled it out to 2 wide racing, but this is exactly the same situation that we said that we need to avoid if you're any driver that is on the cusp of losing out due to not having her faster pair. Now, one of those drivers now is the 24 of Woodard. He is 2 laps down, but running in this group of cars, he has the potential to get out of it. TJ Roberts, I believe you said, has a faster pair, but he doesn't want to have to use it if he doesn't have to. Kyle Gardner, I believe, has already used his faster pair, and he was almost up into the outside wall or on the inside of the racetrack, losing it down through the infield, but it's got it settled to back out to single file racing as late stages. We're about 75% of the way through the race. At this stage, we're looking at drivers who have made advances, have fallen back. Who have you got on your radar that might try to challenge for the lead late in the race? Because DJ Daniel looks pretty unstoppable, but we've seen some drivers like Brock Whitehead as of late that are putting on a charge.
Brock Whitehead and also Ryan Sizemore. These two guys have really seemed to have very good long run speed. They're now up to the second and third position. Drivers like Lawrence and Bourne that we saw up there in the top three with DJ Daniel most of the night, they're starting to fade back. So I think these two Chevrolets here of Whitehead and Sizemore may have something to say about this race lead, potentially this race win from DJ Daniel. And let's not forget too, these drivers are about to complete their 41st lap on this stint. Granted, we've had some caution periods, but we've got to be somewhere around 10 laps away from when these guys are going to have to start thinking about making, more than likely, their final pit stop of the night.
And if we get to that final stop, we're going to see a mixed bag of strategies onto the pit road. Some people trying to get on pit road as quickly as possible, but still being within the window to make it to the end of the race. Because we saw what the advantage was when we had fresh tires, even a couple of laps fresher tires than older tires. That's essentially 2 to 3 laps that you get to run at full speed while other drivers are still struggling around the racetrack, and that translates pretty big as we saw people lose leads over it earlier in the run. And let's look back here. It looks like we got a couple of teammates battling now for 5th place as you got Lawrence and Kyle Gardner battling for the 5th place position. These Rebel Racing cars, there's a lot of them inside the top 10, and right now if they were to finish it out, this would be a really good points haul for the team as a whole. But right now, to see Lawrence just basically let Gardner go by, I would dare say that of all the drivers in this team right now, it's a cross between Gardner and Lawrence that might be the fastest out of all of them.
Making their way now up to the 77 of Patrick McQuaid. Have to figure their way around that. Christian Ruse now enters into the picture. Dale Jr. fans will recognize that paint scheme out of 2017 when Dale Earnhardt Jr. ran the Mountain Dew SA Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. And Christian Ruse here tonight did not have any specific service member to put on his driver's banner, so he covered his bases here tonight as he is honoring all who have served on his driver banner here tonight. So a nice blanket tribute there, if you will, on that 14 car as he's up to the 7th position. I mean, there's a lot of guys that we didn't mention during the first half of this race that all of a sudden are making their presence felt here up inside of the top 10. You got Ryan Sizemore, you've got Kyle Gardner, Christian Ruse. We mentioned about seeing the 38 of Corvo up here. The 5 of Chris Hubka is up here. I mean, these are guys that could very well be a bit of a sleeper here tonight to be able to sneak out a victory. And I just want to quickly touch on something here. I talked about it back when we had our first round of green flag pit stops about you want to be one of the first ones to pit road. You want to take advantage of those fresh tires. I'm going to amend my statement a little bit now because the last thing you want to do is come down pit road earlier than everybody else. Yes, you get that tire advantage, but you're also going to lose at least a lap on pit road as a result. You don't want a caution coming out, trapping you off the lead lap with less than 50 laps to be able to mount a comeback charge and hope and pray that you're going to get a lucky dog to get back on the lead lap. So it's really going to be a lot riskier now in terms of what type of strategy you're going to have of when you decide to come to pit road for that final stop.
We are well within the window of being able to make it to the end of the race when that eventual stop happens. So I guess it's going to be to see who comes down pit road first and then try to base your strategy off of that. That's kind of what happens a lot when you see some of these drivers who will come down and make a stop first, and then that changes the strategy for everybody else, because mainly the strategy for some of these guys is wait to see what happens. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. I want to give a shout out to somebody who is just made their way into the top 10. We haven't mentioned him all night long. Wesley Fuller in the 35 has cracked into the top 10 running in a 9th place position after TJ Roberts has fallen all the way back to 10th place. So give Fuller some credit. He is running extremely well right now, en route for a top 10 finish if everything holds up.
No doubt about it. Great performance here in his debut in the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series. We'll see if he can hang on to that spot with less than 50 laps to go. Battle right now at the front might be for second place. That's where Ryan Sizemore is having some trouble with the 24 of Chris Woodard. Remember, Woodard is a lap down. He's also a teammate to DJ Daniel, so I wonder if he might play a little bit of defense there and try and hold off these Sizemore Motorsports Chevrolets that are currently holding down P2 and P3. Then you gotta go quite a ways back, about 0.8 of a second before you find Tom Bourne in the 54. And if I'm gonna pick somebody out of the field here, Anthony, that I think might be one of the first on pit road to begin that final cycle of green flag pit stops, looking maybe at that 11 of TJ Roberts. He has dropped like a rock, restarted up in the 5th position. He's now back outside the top 10. Just lost the 11th spot to Jeffrey Vickery and now under fire from Jason Gracia. So I think that those Goodyears, they are worn down.
Yeah, he definitely wants to think about coming down again within the pit within the pit window. So now he can make it to the end of the race.
Oh, Christian Ruse through the infield saves it.
Fantastic. He was running inside the top 10. He's still on the inside line, or make that the infield line, bringing it back onto the racetrack. Only going to lose a couple spots under that last exchange. So it looks like he might have gotten loose coming out of 4. I did see someone go down pit road. That would have been the 8's on pit road for sure.
And that would have been the car you saw.
So the cycle begins. Right now it's Gracias making his first stop. And he'll be able to make it to the end of the race now. So who else decides to come with him? That is the question.
Bourne to the outside of Brock Whitehead. He might have been saving his stuff as he's going to move to 3rd. Whoa! Ryan Sizemore trying to get around the 39 of Ron Gartner. And Gartner's into the wall. That's going to stack him up 2nd, 3rd, 4th now, all nose to tail coming to the start-finish line. And that checked them up so much, DJ Daniel has opened up a 2.5 over this 3-way battle.
Almost a 2-second gap as they came through turn. McDaniel's coming through turn 2 at the moment. He's got... Now this is good news for, and I just noticed this, but this is good news for Woodard right now because he's running only 1 lap down. If the caution were to come out now, he would be the recipient of the free pass. Although, actually, I take that back. Noah Owens would.
Owens
I don't know when.
Now 1 lap down, and also Jason Gracias. Both those drivers running ahead of Woodard.
Not quite sure how that happened, to be honest.
Well, Gracias would have lost his lap with hitting.
True.
And actually, Noah Owens was on pit road about 9 laps ago. We missed that.
So that would explain why not. When Owens and Gracias gets their laps back, if they get their laps back before then. So this is actually bad news for Woodard. He's actually going to let... I say that, never mind. I was looking at the wrong car. So still running the way they are. DJ Daniel keeping up with him. Tom Bourne now back into 2nd place after getting around Sizemore, who gets a bit of the inside line and the inside apron is now checked up a little bit. And Brock Whitehead looking to pounce as the top 4 have gotten relatively spread out. It's a big gap back to Kyle Gardner, who's moved his way in the top 5. And then Christopher Lawrence outside the top 5 looking in. Got Hubka, Fuller, and Lawrence is pitting.
As is DJ Daniel. So 2 teammates out of Rebel Racing coming to pit lane with 42 laps to go. We'll see if this is the race-winning call for the driver of the 23, DJ Daniel. We'll see how everything plays out here with drivers like Bourne, Sizemore, Whitehead. Could they maybe catch a lucky caution and trap 2 of the fastest cars of the evening off the lead lap? Bourne's going to stay out an extra lap. Ryan Sizemore, Brock Whitehead, they're in this time by.
Oh, Gardner sails it into the pit lane, but gets it woed down at enough time. Will not be hit with a speeding penalty unless he obviously speeds down the pit road. More drivers going in and staying out. That would be the 38 coming down pit road. That'd be Corvo. We've got Chris Hubka, I believe, that's on his pit on this cycle. As Tom Bourne yet again. Nope, never mind. He is now coming down the pit lane, so the leader is in on as well. So everyone, he doesn't want to have what happened earlier happen again, because we saw there is a lot of position changing under that first time that someone stretched it out as well.
Here's your new battle for the race lead. Christian Ruse, the 14 on the bottom, 35 of Wesley Fuller on the top side. And then you got a bunch of machines that I think have just been to pit road. How about 4 wide down the back straightaway? Noah Owens on the middle, DJ Daniel on the inside line. Talk about a hairy situation.
That could have taken out a lot of drivers as well, and that would have trapped a lot of drivers a lap down if that had brought out a yellow. But Wesley Fuller gets away with it, and now will be the leader of the race. Although interimly hasn't made a stop yet. Jeffrey Vickery now moves up into second place. This is a nice battle between second and third, Christian Ruse and Jeffrey Vickery. All these drivers still yet to pit, but still showing some pace. They could make up some ground, a little bit of ground anyway, and have to see what they do as they cycle out. Now, they have stretched it much further than I thought they would have, considering that right now Vickery's on a 54-lap stint. He's been out on the racetrack the longest of any other driver. It has not yet come down for fuel, so I wonder how far that he can stretch this car.
Let's also bear in mind that he also got a free pass and was able to top off the fuel tank at that time. So I think that with the pacing laps that we've run, I think he could go maybe another 2 or 3 laps longer before having to come down. Actually, he's going to come down this time, as is Christian Ruse. So yeah, they were able to go a little bit longer because these were 2 drivers that had gotten lucky dogs more recently, and obviously had taken the opportunity to come down and top off the fuel tank.
Wesley Fuller is another driver is in a similar position. He only has about 37 laps on his stint. Everybody else, when they came down pit road, was nearing the 48 mark. So
he's pitting. He's pitting. That indication right there in the back straightaway. He's coming down.
A smart move on the part of the 35. Yeah,
and he was awfully high there in 3 and 4, though. That was.
Locks it up going on to pit road. I don't know if he made he made the commitment line. I don't know if he made speed limit, but definitely a fast entrance on the pit road. So not a bad strategy though to get some fresh tires. Now you know you can make it to the end, and has gotten on to stop. Billiter is also in, and this should cycle the lead back over to DJ Daniel, who is now crossing the line to take the lead of the race.
But look who's now slotted up to second. Jason Gracias, who is now about 1.5 seconds off the back bumper of the 23. So let's keep an eye on him, because we saw he was pretty fast around the midway portion of this race. Does he have enough speed in that Chevrolet to reel in DJ Daniel? Lawrence will be in 3rd, Tom Bourne in 4th, and Noah Owens in 5th. Now, Gracias and Owens, they are both running up inside the top 5 because those 2 drivers came to pit road about 5-6 laps sooner than most of the other drivers up here inside the top 5, top 10.
And Gracias, I believe, only took 2 tires because his box time was 10.7 seconds. Everybody else was in the 14.5 second range. So there's definitely something that happened there, and that's what gained him all this time. So the 2 tires.
Wesley Fuller in the 35 has gone around to the front straightaway.
He was just leading the race and had just pitted as well.
Did make it down to pit road speed, and I almost wonder if maybe there might have been some contact. You see Ron Gartner in the 39 down in the infield grass as well. Let's go back and see if we can find out what happened here. Yep, they had some contact there out of turn 4.
Might have been a little bit of gap whack. I don't think that when the initial turn-in happened, I don't think that there was contact, but then got sent around.
Well, that's a hard hit there into the outside wall for Wesley Fuller. He was a driver that did have a faster pair still available, so that's a saving grace. He also, I believe, at the time of that caution, was on the lead lap, so I think he would still remain on the lead lap here. I'll have to double check on that. If he does, Christopher Woodard would be the recipient of the lucky dog, but if Wesley Fuller was a lap down, I don't know how that would affect who gets the free pass and who does not. And if there was any question of if these drivers could make it to the checkered flag on what they've got in the tank, this solidifies it. They'll be able to save some fuel here under this pacing period, and they should all be good to make it to the checkered flag. And there you saw the confirmation. Woodard goes around, gets his lap back. He's going to have somewhere in the vicinity of 30 laps to go to be able to work his way from 15th back up to around the 5th, 6th, 7th position where he was running before he had his misfortune, the contact between himself and Trey Whitehead.
And he was one of the faster cars on the racetrack before he got trapped a lap down due to an incident, so have to watch his progression through the field. Daniel will be the leader. Gracias will be in second place. Got Lawrence, Bourne, Sizemore, and Whitehead making it top 6. Out of all these drivers, the most consistent has been DJ Daniel. He's not left the top 3 much, if any, at all this race. And you can also chalk that up to Tom Bourne. Hasn't left the top 5, except for a few times. But we have been mentioning his name a lot, but give credit to Christopher Lawrence. He's been up here since the drop of the green flag, hasn't gone anywhere. He is, I would say, pretty much the dark horse of these the two that we've mentioned. DJ Daniel, again, has success. He's obviously won this race before. And then you have Tom Bourne, who has been successful. He got the pole position trying to go coast to coast tonight. Christopher Lawrence has been quiet in this top 10, this top 5 even. Has been around the lead of the race. I don't think he's led a lap yet today, but he is right on the cusp of doing so. He might be the driver with the most consistency that hasn't led a lap tonight.
Lawrence is looking for his second career win here in the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series. His first, of course, was in the regular season finale at Daytona last year. DJ Daniel is looking for his 4th. Last season, he was a 3-time winner. So far this year, there is a 0 that has eluded him in the win column. So trying to go back-to-back here at Charlotte and get his first win of Season 2. And then you've got guys like Jason Gracias, Tom Bourne, Ryan Sizemore, the rest of your top 5. They're looking for their first trip to victory lane in their BackFire sim racing career. So a lot of stories up here at the front, and still going to be about 30 laps for it all to unfold. We do have another driver that just recently went back to the garage area, and that is Patrick McQuaid. A tough break there for him after his night pretty much started out on a bit of a sour note, and it just continued to go downhill, it seemed, for him. Just seemed like the wrecks took place around wherever he was. He was involved in at least 2, I believe 3 incidents here this evening, but want to mention that he had on his car tonight his father, Corporal Patrick McQuaid Sr., who served in the Marines for 3 years, active in 1981 to 1984, and 3 non-active stints. No cool stories that Patrick knows of, but he also, his dad is still living, very interested in iRacing, and so he thought it would be very cool to honor his time of service by putting his name on the race car tonight. Obviously a tough break there with McQuaid out of the race. He joins Trey Whitehead, Gene Cato, Dylan Hervatin, and Patrick Jenks in the garage area. Alexander Kerfan still being scored in this race, but he has spent over an hour on pit road trying to get that car at least decent enough to get out there and turn some laps. He's right now being scored in 24th. We've got 20 cars that are still running in this race, and with Woodard going around getting his lap back, 15 on the lead lap here for what's going to be a 30-lap shootout at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. DJ Daniel, Jason Gracias, Tom Bourne, Christopher Lawrence, Brock Whitehead, Ryan Sizemore, Kyle Gardner, Chris Hubka, TJ Robertson, Clifford Corbeau. That is your top 10. Again, an update on the drivers that have the faster pairs available. Well, I'm going to make it simple. Out of everybody in the field here that still remains, only 5 of them still have their faster pair intact.
And we get ready to set them back up for what is to be an amazing last 30 laps of this race. Again, Daniel, Gracias, Lawrence, and Bourne, that is your top 4. Safety car peels down pit road. Only a few laps to go, and it's been a long time to get here, but we are finally within the last bit of the race. Daniel pulls ahead again. He's been really good on these restarts. Was able to get ahead yet again. He's got his teammate, though, behind him, Lawrence. Now, the thing that I wanted to ask is, with these two being teammates, what do you think that the sportsmanship between the two of them are going to be. I know that when we get into these races, teammates kind of go out the window if there's a win on the line, but how much do you think that Lawrence is going to let DJ Daniel get away from him, or how much do you think that Lawrence wants to get this win more than he does?
He will work with him when they're battling with other drivers. That much I know, because we've seen him pretty committed to whatever line DJ Daniel is running on the straightaways. He goes up there and offers the drafting help. But right now, they're working with each other, but only because Lawrence sees it to his advantage. I guarantee you, he sees that 23 make a bit of a bobble, he will be there to pounce. All these guys want that checkered flag. And, of course, for Christopher Lawrence and DJ Daniel, they're looking for their first win on the season. Both these drivers found victory lane last year, so they may be teammates, but they're also competitors. And Tom Bourne wants to break up that Rebel Racing party. He's taking a little peek there to the outside of Christopher Lawrence, and Brock Whitehead right there in the conversation as well. Remember, Brock Whitehead had that contact off of turn 2, hit the inside safer barrier. Well, he's back up here. He had to use the faster pair, but we know the 31 is fast.
And we've also got Ryan Sizemore in the 3 trying to close in and get into this battle for the lead of the race. The side-by-side is Lawrence and Bourne. Bourne on the outside of the racetrack. Lawrence trying to hold tight on the inside. Sails it into turn 2 again, does the 9, and whoa! Goodness, if there wasn't contact, I don't know what it will take to make contact, but there most certainly was some sketchy moments happening between the two of them as now Bourne gets back into second place.
It's going to be Brock Whitehead looking to the inside of Christopher Lawrence for the 3rd position. Not yet able to pull off the pass off of turn 4 as Ryan Sizemore's got the best seat in the house. He's in 5th place watching this 4th place battle go down. Then it's about a 1.5-second gap before you get to the 6th place battle. That's TJ Roberts. Chris Hubka in the mix. Whoa, Noah Owens way up the track there in the 88 car. Joshua Billiter is in this mix. Also Kyle Gartner in the 49. Clifford Corbeau in the 38. All these drivers trying to settle out the second half of the top 10.
You'll be trying to work your way back up to get up to the lead group of cars. Now, I've been noticing a lot of these drivers through this field. I think Christian Roux will make that Clifford Corbeau almost got out of hand and sent into the inside of the racetrack. And the 5 is around. Hubka's been made contact. He saved it, though. Wow.
Right in the middle of the corner with oncoming traffic, Hubka keeps the thing pointed in the right direction. Credit to Noah Owens for backing off, allowing him to gather it back up as well.
Well, there's that 24 car. Now, we were talking about him earlier, how would he be able to get through the field? Well, now we're looking at it. Woodard trying to get back up to the front of the field. He's got a long way to go and a lot of cars to get through, but that was an indication he's not afraid to send it into these turns.
Saw a smoking car coming to pit road. That was the 33 of Trey Whitehead, who has gone back onto the racetrack. I believe if he turned 2 more laps, he could pick up a spot there on Patrick McQuaid and move up to 21st. That might be what's on his mind right now, but I saw that huge trail of smoke pluming from underneath his Chevrolet as he'll be trying to do his best to stay out of the way of the race leaders. Right now, you've got Woodard up into the 11th position, and bear in mind, with being the lucky dog driver, why we've not seen him make any more forward progress than what he's got. When you are the free pass machine, you start at the tail end of the field. That's behind the lead lap and the lap down car. So theoretically, he started back from the 20th position and has picked up 9 spots since then.
And now he's gone underneath the 38 of Corbeau for the 10th place position, working his way through. His next driver to get around would be the side-by-side battle between Bilter and Roux. That's before he has to go through a lap machine in front of him. So a bit more work if he wants to get up into the top half of the top 10, which right now at the pace he's running would be feasible to do. I don't know if he's got enough for the lead of the race, as they're miles ahead of him right now in a battle between Daniel and Bourne. To the inside goes Bourne. This battle might be cut and dry as Tom Bourne with a run leads the lap at the line. He might have the momentum to carry it through to turn 1. Give the lead over to the 54.
Tom Bourne's had some strong runs this season. Of course, it didn't start out the way he wanted, dead last at Daytona, but I have to wonder here tonight, it's kind of seemed to be a mano-a-mano, Bourne versus Daniel, but I wonder if it's a little bit more personal because, of course, we talked about that major silly season shakeup Heading into last week's race at Talladega, DJ Daniel moving over to Rebel Racing. Well, the driver that he replaced in that team was Tom Bourne, who then moved over to Sky Motorsports. So you have to wonder if there's a little bit of a personal note here of Tom Bourne wanting to beat that 23 car.
They still run side. Oh, there was contact and Bourne's in the wall. That's going to lose a lot of momentum. That's going to give Whitehead, it's going to give Lawrence Sizemore an advantage. And now Bourne's got to play catch up to get back to the lead of the race as Whitehead's thinking about going for the lead.
You run such a risk when you're that car on the top side and you try and pinch the car on the bottom down to the inside line, especially on corner exit, because there's no guarantee the car underneath you is going to be able to hold its line and not get tight through the center of the corner towards the exit. Tom Bourne at least twice tonight has been bitten by that. It's the second time that I've seen him go up into the wall after being in a side-by-side battle. Now it's DJ Daniels on the top side. Whitehead's got the inside advantage going into turn 3.
Christopher Lawrence coming right behind them, as well as Sizemore trying to get up into his third place position. In front of them, Whitehead almost makes contact with Daniel, but they still settle it out. Daniel leads at the line, but now we have a gaggle of 4 cars. Make that 5 cars because Bourne is right behind them. Make that even 6 cars because TJ Roberts has got the back end of this field.
It is Sizemore Motorsports versus Rebel Racing up here in 1st through 4th. Whitehead versus Daniel, Sizemore versus Lawrence for 1st and 3rd position. Bourne now into the mix there as well. And how about that 11 of TJ Roberts making his presence felt? The team's called Get You Some. Well, he's getting himself some here tonight.
And he's moments away from trying. He almost looked like he was going 3 wide between himself, Lawrence, and Bourne, but thought better of it. There was contact, though, right there between him and Lawrence, trying to size it up. Check out who's coming up behind them as well. We got more cars trying to join this fight. We got Gardner, Roos, and Woodard has made his way. He's cutting and weaving through the field. Woodard's putting on one heck of a charge.
Christopher Woodard is not going to be afraid to make moves. He knows that we're at less than 20 laps to go. He wants to be the first repeat winner on the season. He wants to go 2 for 2 at the D-shaped mile and a halves. Brock Whitehead, look at this now. He's got the teammate helping him on the straightaways. Ryan Sizemore pulls to his back bumper. DJ Daniels' wingman Christopher Lawrence has been shuffled back to the 5th position.
And now they've got to play catch-up in order to get back up there, but these two have been continuing to be side-by-side throughout the entirety of the race.
Oh, 3 wide back there. Sorry to cut you off. Lawrence has gotten the wall as a result.
And he's going to go way back behind everybody. Lost a ton of momentum. He's going to lose at least back to 10th place. He's got a lap machine behind him, but back at the front, Daniel has been able to continue to keep the lead no matter what Whitehead throws at him. And now Ryan Sizemore's gotten into 3rd place with a run going down the back straightaway. Does the 3 machine try to duck underneath the 31?
Saw DJ Daniel as soon as he cleared the 31, he pulled down across the nose. That takes the air off the nose of the 31. He's going to spin DJ Daniel. Daniel's going to be able to save it. No, back up the track into Chris Woodard. Will we keep it straight? Will we stay green? Yes, we will. Everyone keeps it pointing in the right direction. But that's 2 of the Rebel Racing Chevrolets now with a lot of damage and falling outside of the top 5.
And that was one driver, Woodard specifically, that was trying to make his way in as a comeback charge. He's now lost a lot of momentum with a damaged race car. That might be night done for the 24. Give the spot to Kyle Gardner, though. He's now moved his way into 5th place. And now Brock Whitehead, with a commanding lead over Ryan Sizemore, will continue to try to pull away as the 2 of them have gotten a big gap back to Bourne, who's under threat from Christian Roos down to the inside.
This entire race has completely gone tipsy-turvy from what we saw in the beginning stages. Tom Bourne and Christian Roos battling for 3rd. They're trying to chase down Brock Whitehead and Ryan Sizemore. DJ Daniels fallen back to 6th. Woodard has fallen back to 10th. Lawrence has fallen back to 8th position. All of a sudden, the wheels are coming off the train for Rebel Racing as it'll be 12 laps to go. Whitehead and Sizemore. Now the question is, who of these 2 teammates wants it more? Because for both of them, it would be their first career win.
And that is huge if you want to get your first career win at a stage as big as this one. And right now they've got a lot of racetrack that they have to play with. It's a long ways back to this gaggle of 3 cars now between Boris, Roos, and Gardner. So now you've got the space, you've got the speed, it's now a battle between the two of you. You can really just kind of ride it out and wait to the final 10 laps, so which we're almost to the final 10 laps, and then mount a charge. Then if you're Ryan Sizemore, if you're Brock Whitehead, you just want to run the race and try to not have the guy in second place get a run down the back straightaway and eat you up. Whereas right now, it looks like the Sizemore's sizing up the leader of the race.
With the contact we had just moments ago, it now has Sizemore Motorsports with 3 cars inside the top 6 at Joshua Billiter into the mix as he just got around DJ Daniels moments ago. Lawrence now makes the pass on Daniel. That damage on the 23 really affecting him, especially on straightaway speed. He's now under fire from TJ Roberts. DJ Daniel, who has led the most laps here tonight, he is now about to drop back, maybe outside of the top 10, depending on what happens in the closing stages of this race.
But towards the top 3, Christian Roos has gotten around. Bourne has now solidified his third place, and now Kyle Gardner's gotten around the wounded 54 of Tom Bourne, as there's some heavy right side and front end damage on that 54 that's affecting his straightaway speeds as well. Now it becomes a question, is there enough time for Roos and Gardner to run down Sizemore and Whitehead, because their battle for the lead is starting to heat up?
No, I was asking who wants it more. Well, let's take a look at these two drivers and where they are in the points. Brock Whitehead is 18th in the standings, 2 positions out of the top 16, which are going to be your playoff field. He is a total of 22 points behind Josh Billiter, who holds the final spot. Ryan Sizemore, who missed a couple of weeks due to the COVID pandemic, he's 26th in the point standing. So I think in terms of who wants the max points tonight, you would have to look at the 3. The question is, though, is he willing to move a teammate in order to do it?
Well, Whitehead certainly had no problem moving DJ Daniel out the way. They weren't teammates, to your point. I don't think that it's anywhere in the realm of or outside the realm of possibility that Sizemore isn't thinking the same thing. Now, it's going to be a little awkward team lunch the next day, but we've seen the bump and run be used before. We've seen it tonight. I wouldn't put it past him, but right now, I don't think that Sizemore's got the speed. He's been able to get to the back bumper, but that's about it. He's not been able to mount a charge as of late. I wonder if there's something wrong with the 3 car, but that 31 definitely seems to be the faster of the 2 of them.
Both of these drivers came to pit road back on lap 160. They are even in terms of the tire rubber underneath them. I almost wonder, as they're starting to close up on, I believe that's the 39 Ron Gardner, could lap traffic be the deciding factor into this race? And look at the lap times, Anthony. All of a sudden, Christian Roos and Kyle Gardner are running 3 and 4/10 of a second faster than the top 2. We could have 4 drivers in the hunt for this victory. They've got time.
They do. Still outside of 5 laps to go. We got 6 to go, and they are closing around to complete lap 195. We are now under 5 laps to go. Can they do it, Roos and Gardner? They have got a lap machine to get around. They're using the straight line speed down the straightaways to get them, and they're within a second and a half. It's closing the gap rapidly right now. Whitehead and Sizemore hoping that they can hold on.
The streak is going to continue. It doesn't matter who inside the top 6 takes this checkered flag. The streak will continue with 7 different race winners here in the first 7 races of the second season, and all 7 first-time winners. Will it be Whitehead, Sizemore, Roos, or Gardner? Looks like those would be the 4 to settle it out, but you've got Tom Bourne back there in 5th, Billiter in 6th. Anything could happen, as we clearly saw with 3 of our fastest cars involved in an incident that didn't even bring out a caution to save them. 3.5 laps to go down the back straightaway. Gap about maybe a car length, 2 car lengths between the 31 and the 3.
I don't know if Sizemore's used up all of his stuff, but he's been able to get to Whitehead, but not able to pass Whitehead. He might be trying to save it for a last-minute charge. Oh, he gets the wall coming out of turn 4. That might be enough to get Whitehead far enough ahead that there is no charge with 3 laps to go. That might be it for the 3 machine.
If you're Brock Whitehead, the last thing you're doing is looking up at that flag stand, because you don't want to look up there and see a yellow flag waving. That would bring everybody back to your back door. Look at the run. Sizemore got out of 2. He's going to take a look into 3.
Well, I said it might have been the last chance for the 3 machine. That definitely is not the case, because right now he had a whale of a run coming out of 2. Going down the back of the front straightaway now, 2 laps to go. Can Whitehead hold on? Now, I think Sizemore might have more speed than he's leading on. Going through 1 and 2, I think he's setting up for a run down the back straightaway.
See if he can do it again as he ran really low there through the center of 1 and 2. Might not get the straightaway speed he was looking for this time. Yeah, the gap's going to remain about 2, maybe 3 car lengths, but we saw him use this just a couple laps ago to get back up to the bumper of the 31. Let's see if he waits for the front straightaway or if he'll try and set him up for 1 and 2. White flag in the air one more time around. It's Brock Whitehead, Ryan Sizemore, teammates trying to see who's going to get their first career win.
The gap is half a second back to Sizemore. I think that might be race over for Sizemore unless he gets a whale of a run down the back straightaway. I don't think there's enough time though. Whitehead, who has been up inside the top 10 all race long, got the lead off of a bump and run coming out of turn 4. The final time, he's gonna win tonight here at Charlotte in a dominating fashion at the last part of the race.
It's a Sizemore Motorsports 1-2 finish here this evening. Brock Whitehead, a rookie this year, his first full-time season, picks up his first career win in an amazing turn of events in the final 30 laps here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
The top 5 looks nothing like the top 5 that we've had all race long. You've got Whitehead, Sizemore, Roos, Gardner, and Bourne is still in it, but in 5th place. It's incredible to me that in late in the third act of the race, we saw a complete shift in drivers that you saw them that were running up in the field consistently just suddenly fall off. And then you had a complete new face for it, and Brock Whitehead, was able to stay out in front. He started outside the top 10 at the beginning of the race, and it had to work his way up into this position to even try to challenge for the lead. Was able to get it with 30 laps to go. I don't think that there's some drivers that are too happy about that, but definitely a deserved win in order to stay in front of Sizemore, who had a huge charge.
Saw right there, that was DJ Daniel. It came down to the 31 there doing his victory burnouts. I don't know if that was a congratulations or I'll remember that bump next week. Whatever the case may be, end result is end result. Brock Whitehead getting to do the burnouts, and to build off the point you made with Brock Whitehead not even starting this race inside the top 10. He started 13th. Sizemore, who finished 2nd, started 15th, and Christian Roos, who finished 3rd, started in the 14th position. So all these drivers started around each other, finished around each other, but in entirely different places.
Just shows that it doesn't matter what your starting position is. You can make something big out of it. Now the top 3 are podium spots, definitely made up of drivers that, if you told us at the beginning of the race would have been finishing here, we might have believed you, but how they got to this position is beyond baffling. A fantastic race start to finish. I mean, the top 5, you got outside the top 5, you got Gardner and Bourne that makes up the top 5, but then outside of that, you've got Joshua Billiter, who started at the back of the field and has now finished inside the top 10 spot in the 6th place position. A fantastic run for that team. You've got Lawrence Woodard, who had that late race charge after getting forced to be 2 laps down, but unfortunately smacked the wall and fell back to 8th place. TJ Roberts and Chris Hubka will make up your top 10, but I don't know if there's anything else we can say about how Whitehead was able to get up here. It was basically just run a clean race, and the dominoes kind of fell into where they needed to be, and completely dominant run at the end of the race in order to hold off Sizemore, who had a charge.
He did. He had that one run there on the back straightaway, just could not formulate a line to the inside. Whitehead had it scouted and was able to throw the block. You've got other drivers down here outside of the top 10, and they've got their own stories. For some of them, it's a comeback run. For some of them, though, it's definitely not the runs that they were looking for. Noah Owens, that's a comeback run in 11th, but DJ Daniel, who led the most laps here tonight, he's going to finish a very disappointing 12th place. He's still searching for his first victory of Season 2, a 3-time winner from last year. Mike Sibanovsky, man, he was early issues. He was a lap down very early on this race. He was able to bring it home for 13th. Jason Gracias had early issues. He's 14th. Early issues for Clifford Corbeau. He finishes in 15th. You've got Vickery and Wesley Fuller. They finished a lap down in 16th and 17th. Modesbaugh, Ron Gartner, finishing the thing out in 19th, and Zachary Woods completing the top 20. The rest of these drivers, with the exception of Trey Whitehead, finished out of the race. Whitehead tried to turn a couple more laps to pick up that 21st position on McQuaid, could not do it. So McQuaid will be 21st. Gene Cato, Alexander Kerfan, Dylan Herberton, and Patrick Jenks all finishing out of the race. But that's the beauty of these long races. We looked at it coming in tonight, 200 laps. What looks like what you've already figured it out. You think you've got it all figured out of what the top 5, top 10 is going to look like about halfway through the race. And next thing you know, the entire top 10 completely changes in terms of the landscape, in terms of the drivers. And tonight was a classic case of that. Charlotte doing it once again, a big shakeup here in the results. And it'll be interesting to see as well, possibly a big shakeup in the points, because these are a lot of guys that don't normally finish up inside of the top 5 consistently week after week.
It's going to leapfrog into the rest of the season because you have a good run here. And usually, what follows is you see these drivers have a surge in their drive later races. So, we could see some of these drivers really make a charge. And some of these drivers that have some issues that were up in the top 10 in points that had some issues tonight, it might put them in a bit of a slump, or we might see the opposite and they might try much harder in the remaining races to try to make up for tonight's race. But you hit a big point, is that at these longer races you get to see what it looked like before and what it looked like after. It's almost like when you're when you're watching power washing videos on YouTube or something like that, and when you're watching this race, how it goes on, everything starts out one way and then it ends up changing to be something completely different. And those last 30 laps, like you said, we've hammered this point home, but the landscape of this race changed. And that means that, as Seth alluded to, the landscape of this season might have also changed with tonight's race. Some of these drivers will probably point their way into a playoff spot. Again, no one gets in the playoffs based on wins, but some of these drivers might have some more momentum on their side going forward that could get them a playoff spot.
Well, let's see if we can find out what the drivers thought about tonight's event. I guarantee you a number of them, probably all of them, have to be exhausted after the marathon they went through here tonight. And let's see if we can kick things off with driver out of 1-3 Speed Motorsports. Third place finish here tonight for the 14 of Christian Ruse. Hey, Christian, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I sure do. How's it going, guys?
Man, a heck of a run for you here tonight. We saw you kind of ride towards the back for the majority of this race, but man, when you made your move, you made it in a big, big way up inside the top 10, then into the top 5, then up into the podium position there in the closing stages with a great battle with the 49. Kind of looked like it was a bit of a race of attrition there towards the closing stages, but what was it like inside the cockpit of that car, especially with this being such a long race?
Oh, it was crazy. Charlotte is one of my best tracks. It's one of my favorites. I love racing here, and I put myself behind the 8 ball early with getting together with the 88 there. I think it was mid 20s or so. Um, got together with him and put myself way behind the 8 ball. Like I said, I was riding around the back just trying to get stuff fixed and all that good stuff. I was able to use my fast repair later on and got back on the lead lap after a while, got back going, and it was nice. I love these long races. Like I said, I love this track. It's a fun one.
Definitely seemed like your race started and ended very differently. I guess the question I have for you is, was the consistency of the drive what got you into a third place finish? Because it seemed like that a lot of drivers that had been running up inside the top 10 for the longest time started having problems. And then all of a sudden we look up and then Christian Ruse is in third place. And it's kind of fun to see how a driver could start, outside the top 10 and still make their way into a third place spot by the end of it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what it is about this track. It just me and it get along really well. I don't know if guys were using up their stuff or getting in the wall, but I was able to just kind of wait it out, pick them off one by one, and there at the end, I thought I'd have something for the leaders, but ended up using up my tires, making a couple passes a little bit earlier on, and then trying to hold off Kyle Gertner there. Props to him. He was making it hard on me. It was a real good race in there. I feel bad for kind of blocking him a little bit, but hey, I wanted the spot, so.
No, obviously, during the course of this evening, we saw some untimely cautions come out. Sometimes just before drivers think about coming down pit road for green flag pit stops. At one point, we actually had a caution come out just a couple of laps after everyone had cycled around for green flag pit stops. I mean, when it comes to a long race like this, I'm sure that you have a strategy in place when the green flag flies, but how difficult is it to kind of amend that strategy in timing with when the cautions fall?
Oh, it's extremely difficult. Some guys, have their timing down a little bit better than others. For me, there were two cautions that came out tonight where I was the next car a lap down. It would have been a lap or two, and I would have been the lucky dog. So those just kind of didn't fall my way. I got pretty frustrated there for a little while, just trying to get back going. But for me, these long races, I just try to, if I get behind, I just try to wait it out, figure that things are gonna happen, and if they don't, then they don't, and it's just not my night. But luckily tonight, everything fell my way and ended up here in third.
Well, Christian Ruse, a great performance here tonight. He puts that Dale Jr. look-alike machine into the podium here tonight with a P3 run. Christian, we're now going to give the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
For sure. Huge thank you to you guys for putting this on for us. Everyone else in the league, they're great racers, great guys to be against every week. Thanks to the Smoke Pit and Extreme Automotive Detailing, my sponsors. My paint tonight was made by, I think it was Cody Williams Design. I actually had it made through proxy via Chris Hubka. So shout out to him. Huge shout out to all the viewers. I forgot to thank my wife last time I was on here, and I got put in the doghouse for that one. So thanks to her for all her support. Everyone else that tuned in, like I said, and again, huge thanks to you guys for putting this on. It's awesome to watch every Friday night.
Christian Ruse, third place here tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speed. But once again, congratulations on a great performance, surviving all the mayhem there in that final shootout and bringing that thing home in one piece.
For sure. Thank you, gentlemen, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Kind of wondered about the little contact we saw after the checkered flag. Wondering whether it was a congratulatory or I'll get you next time bump there from DJ Dan. If the chat's anything to go by, no doubt about it that the 31 and the 23 are at odds after that little argument of space we saw that eventually dropped Daniel outside of the top 10 and Whitehead to victory lane. Let's talk with a guy that was right behind all of it, the guy who brings it home second place here tonight, Ryan Sizemore. Hey, Ryan, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hey, I got you.
And I mean, first off, congratulations as a driver on the tremendous performance here tonight, but you've got to be stoked as an owner as well. Sizemore Motorsports 1-2 finish. You got Billiter back there as well in the 6th spot. You guys kind of were under the radar here tonight. We only saw a few of you up inside the top 5 around the midway point, but you guys came alive in the second half.
Man, what can I say? Hats off to Brock. He ran a great race. Put up with some adversity, but still was able to get it. I had a run there on him, and he took the lane from me, which I would have fully expected him to do. So hats off to him. Amazing win for the team. It's something we needed. Just overall, just a great race. I mean, we had some incidents. Same deal with the 24 cars always. But we can't complain too much. Racing was rough. It was a long race. We just kind of played a strategy out, and it worked to our advantage.
I think the thing that we noticed the most of is the consistency through drivers who were able to fully use it to their advantage, and that's kind of what got both you and Whitehead up into the top 2. Was the strategy throughout the race to try to kind of run your own race and lay back and see what happens with the other competitors, or were you out there trying to push to get around some of these drivers that you knew you might have been faster than? Because we saw that you were hanging out kind of around the top 10 barricade a little bit outside or just inside. So what was the overall strategy tonight?
I mean, really, we didn't come into it with the mindset of hanging back some. I mean, our motto here is to push 110% of the time. But sometimes you're in positions where you've got other cars around you, and it's really hard to tell what some of these guys are going to do. So we caught ourselves, just kind of hanging back, relaxing a little bit. If we caught ourselves in a decent position with not a lot of cars around us, we could push it a little bit more. But mainly it was just being consistent and being there at the end for the chance. And it worked out even better than that. We were there before the end. So just great, consistent racing by the whole team tonight. I couldn't be any more proud of them.
When we come to a track like this, doesn't matter how many laps are on the board, always on the lookout to see that driver that's really good on the long run with the long run consistency. With 200 laps here tonight, even more important to have that long run speed. And I think it was around the lap 110 to 130 mark. I was noticing that you were very quickly working your way through the field as you guys were deep into a tire stint. Where did that speed come from, and what did you do prior to make sure that you had that extra grip that drivers seemed to be lacking?
I just didn't burn it up from the get go. You saw a lot of guys, a couple laps into it, and their tires were shot. There was hardly any, the give and take deal. There was hardly any give tonight with a lot of guys. Everyone pushed way too hard. And when you don't do that, you've got the tires when you need them. So that was kind of the mindset I had, anyways. Was push, and obviously try to get to the front as I can. But to conserve the tires for that long run, I did feel we'd have some long green flag runs, and I didn't want to be the car that was out there on the blistered tires. So really just, not pushing super, super hard or overdriving the car on the beginning of the run, and just staying consistent. And we all get loose here and there on corner exit and middle of corner, but trying to minimize that the best you can, have smooth exits, smooth entries. And it really makes a difference. I had the tires at the end to get by Brock. My tires were an issue at the end of the race. I was still felt plenty fast. I could get to the bottom if I needed to. The thing that got him was he took the line. He had the bottom line, and he figured it out there at the end, and that's what kept me behind it.
We saw you have a heck of a run there on the back straightaway. Thought you might be able to get him, but man, you give it a great try. Great run for you nonetheless here tonight, a second place. Congratulations, Ryan. We're now going to give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
I appreciate it. First, foremost, I want to thank friends and family who support me in doing this. I always have my back. It's great to know that they watch. Second, Sizemore Motorsports. As a team, everyone, we all have each other's backs. We help each other out through the week. We've formed a family here, so really got to give a shout out to those guys. And then from there, Elite Performance Industries, best setup shop out there, guys. No joke. Go check them out. The community there is top notch. You're not going to find anything better. The guys there are super respectful, and the cars are fast. So check those out. A Buffalo Springs Barbecue, 547 Outfitters, Chevrolet. Again, friends, family, thank you all for these broadcasts. The broadcasts are amazing. I get to go back after each race and watch them, and it's truly entertaining each time. The Chris duo, Chris Hupka, Christopher Lawrence, for putting on such a great league. They put up with our crap day in and day out and still managed to put on a great league. So hats off to them.
That's Ryan Sizemore. He puts his number 3 in P2 here tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Once again, congratulations on the great run there, Ryan, and best of luck next week as we head to the Magic Mile of New Hampshire.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And now let's go down to victory lane. First time winner here, first career win, the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series, and it's Brock Whitehead. Hey, Brock, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, man, what an incredible 30-lap shootout here tonight. After all the mayhem, all the chaos at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, you emerged victorious with the victory. We've seen you be really consistent in the last couple of weeks. Is this just the icing on the cake for you here tonight?
Oh, yeah, we had a really strong car tonight. We got in a little mishap on the backstretch with the 6, and he apologized. He said it looked like he just ran out of room and got in the wall. And then the thing between me and DJ Daniel, this is racing.
You did end up getting into the lead, and you were able to hold on to the lead. We were seeing throughout the entirety of the race that you were able to put your car pretty much wherever it needed to be in the later half of the race. Are you more akin to driving at night? Because we saw that the transition happen from a twilight into a night, and even though it's the same setup for all the cars, certainly driving styles do carry over to the different track conditions. So which of the 2 track conditions was your preferred one? And also just the consistency to get into this position certainly did play out throughout the rest of the race. So what was there any strategy going into it?
Yeah, the car felt great after it transitioned in the nighttime. Felt like it had a lot more grip. Oh, my bad. Grip, and the car loved it. And then pit strategy came in, and me and Ryan and Trey had a strategy, and then we just kept going from there. With that last caution, we had still 2 sets left, and went in for that green flag pit stop. Came out, I think, 7th, and then we got that caution maybe 5 laps later, I think it was, which really set us up.
Now, we saw there in the closing stages, your teammate Ryan didn't make it easy for you. He had a really good run out of 2, tried to make a move on the back straightaway. You were able to throw a really good block and keep him at bay. But I mean, how difficult is it when the both of you know that you're looking for your first win of your career here in BackFire, but the both of you want it so much? How difficult is it to throw those type of blocks on a teammate, or at that point, are teammates out the window and it's just competitor versus competitor?
Yeah, we were talking with about 10 to go. And he's saying that if he was faster than me, he was gonna try and get around me. But I was taking his line away, and he was even telling me that he said he wasn't gonna wreck me, but he was gonna do all he could to get around me. And then he got a big run on me, and I blocked him. And then we started kind of chatting about that. And then he kept touching the apron, and it kept moving me out further and further away from him. And after he got up to me, and it got me a little uncomfortable, but once I started pulling away, I felt like the car was good enough to where I could kind of settle down and back the corners up and really get through them nice and smooth.
Well, Brock, obviously, as we know here with the point system, it's not a win and you're in, but you came in within striking distance of a spot points-wise inside of the top 16. No doubt here tonight with the max points, you're going to be able to move yourself up there into a playoff position. So congratulations on that. We look forward to seeing if you can keep the consistency up when we get to New Hampshire next week. But now we're going to hand the mic over to you and let you do some victory lane thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Black Sheep Firearms for making my car look great, and my brother Trey, he paints my cars and everything else for me, so he does a really good job with that. Ryan for letting me be on his team. I love being on his team. We're a good team, so we felt like we had it coming. So
that's Brock Whitehead. He is your winner here tonight under the lights at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Congratulations, Brock, on the win. Go and enjoy it, and look forward to see you go right back to work next week at the Magic Mile.
thank you.
And that is going to conclude our coverage here tonight. A long one on the Flatout Racing Network here this evening in the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series. But at the end of the night, Anthony, Sizemore Motorsports emerged victorious. It's kind of interesting, too, because, during the course of this season, it really has been the talking point of the other Chevrolet teams, JKR Motorsports versus Rebel Racing. I'm not necessarily certain we've given Sizemore Motorsports their due, but boy, they definitely put themselves up at the forefront here tonight, and I think they've got to be a force to be reckoned with here heading down the remainder of this regular season as well as heading into the playoffs.
Absolutely. Tonight has been a shift where, you saw in the first few races of the season that they didn't have that big of a presence, but now certainly do. I mean, top 2 tonight at the longest race that we have on the season. So setting up for the rest of the season, they definitely have that bit of momentum going into it. Obviously, now that I believe this puts Brock Whitehead within the top 16 in points, certainly it must. So having that bit of carrying over into the playoffs and him now being in a playoff position might get that team more of an incentive to get all of their cars, or at least most of their cars, into a position where they can try and go for the playoffs. And who knows, maybe this isn't the last that we've seen Brock Whitehead or Ryan Sizemore go for a lead in this fashion, because we've got more races coming up like this that we might see them start at the back of the pack, but then slowly work their way through the field and get into a position where they can win races. And it puts a huge lightning bolt into a program when you get a result like this and then you carry that over.
It's kind of interesting because, I mentioned, I'm noticing that there's a couple of disagreements that are currently going on post-race. There was not a whole lot of room that was given, especially in those tight battles late, which again, you kind of have to do. If you're that car on the inside, you got to crowd that car on the outside, not let them get the run off the corner. If you're the car on the outside, you got to pinch that car down the inside. That's how you race at a mile and a half. You run the risk that there's going to be contact, but if you don't do that, you're definitely going to get passed for that position. So, that's how you have to approach the corners in order to be able to keep the position, maintain the position you're in, or pick up the position you're trying to get. Obviously, there are different drivers with differing opinions. Next week, we go to New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a mile in length. It can be considered in many ways the way that the racing is as a short track, and a lot of times when drivers have disagreements, they will sometimes voice the opinions at the short tracks and offer the payback there. Is this something we have to keep an eye on when we get to New Hampshire next week with the little bit of a fallout we're having here tonight?
Absolutely. You have essentially a track that is a mile-long version of Martinsville in some senses, where you see all the tempers that flare over in Martinsville. Now you're getting that at a faster track. We could see some contact happening between these drivers if they get close. And you got a week to cool off, but you know that grudges will sometimes carry over an entire season. So having that being said, then yeah, we might see some fallout going into New Hampshire, and it's a track that you can definitely get away with some stuff that you wouldn't necessarily be able to at some of the faster tracks. It's mostly flat, close quarter racing. I wouldn't doubt that we see some bump and runs.
Be very, very interesting as we draw closer to the end of the regular season. And New Hampshire is the next stop on the schedule. But a wild one again here tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. The script got flipped several times here tonight, but at the end of the evening, when the dust settled, it was Brock Whitehead standing in victory lane here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. What a great one here tonight under the lights in Concord, North Carolina. Anthony, appreciate you join me in the booth.
It's always fun to go to North Carolina, and I appreciate that I got this opportunity to commentate with you tonight, and looking forward to the rest of the season.
Thanks to everyone that tuned in here this evening. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage here from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. If you did, be sure to join us next week when we head to the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. But until then, for Anthony McCurry, I'm Seth Cole. It's been a long one here tonight at Charlotte. It's finally over as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.